husband has a
Hello and welcome to episode number 90 of Killer POV. I'm one of your co-hosts.
Crap,
90. Almost up to 100, baby.
Wow, we got to do something special at 100.
Episodes. Oh, man.
Shit.
That's a lot of
There's 10 more to go.
We've been talking a long time.
And that's our last one, right? The internet. I just want to see if we can get a news story posted about us.
Yeah. Maybe
Killer
we'll
POV
retire.
does 100.
No, well, I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob G. from Icons of Fright. With me is Rebekah McKendry from Fangoria.
Hello, guys.
Hello, and Elric Kane.
No
He's
moniker.
just
That's
here.
fine. I'm good with no moniker
Bring
tonight.
your red
He
striped
brought the
Jamaican
beer.
beer.
I said if it's good enough for Obama, it's good enough for us. Red Stripe is good beer. I like the clean logo
I really
and the
wanna
little
try a
stubby
sip
beer.
of this.
I like the
Okay.
stubbiness
Oh
of
my
it.
God, this is the most drinking Becca's
That
ever
is the
done on
most
her
beer
show.
I've seen her drink.
It's just
It's
it's
rather
beer.
smooth, guys.
Yeah, it's just
Right?
like a
Smooth.
lager.
It's almost kind of Mickey's-esque.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
I mean, I'm
smooth.
surprised any Jamaicans drink much beer because usually when you're high as hell, you don't. I mean, to our Jamaican listeners.
yeah.
Full of stereotypes.
Actually, I really want to
tonight.
know if we have a Jamaican listener. If you're in Jamaica, in Kingston,
We have Australian.
We do have Australians.
We got this guy Aaron wrote us on our Killer POV page from Australia. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. And
Amazing.
I met a gentleman in Whole Foods in front of the yogurt this
You
week.
told us that. That was
who
interesting.
was a big Killer POV fan. It
And,
was kind of exciting for me because my mom was there and my mom was like, did somebody recognize you? And granted, I was shocked as shit, but I was like, yeah, they did. You know, I had to play it really cool.
I met Greg Henry in a Whole Food once, from the killer from Brian De Palma's playing the crazy Indian. And what was the Jeff Lieberman's film? Just Before Dawn.
Yeah.
He was standing in front of me at Whole
Stars
Foods, and I was
Slither.
very excited. I think I was like the only person who would have been excited.
But he didn't
about Greg
recognize
Henry.
you from Killer POV.
He did not recognize me.
Wow,
From
that's
was
the point of the
one
story.
night- Elric and I
He was wearing a
ran
Killer
into-
POV t-shirt. How's that?
There was one night Elric and I ran into each other in the Whole Foods parking lot and Susan Sarandon was there.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
It did happen.
And we made out.
And we totally made out with Susan
Not me and Bekah.
Sarandon.
We both made out with
I got
Susan
really
Sarandon.
confused there for a
Susan
second.
Yeah.
And
That'd be weird. Bekah and Susan
nervous.
Sarandon have similar redhead qualities. That might be too much.
That is kind of weird, guys.
Might be too much. And her daughter was there too.
But what we have
Oh, hey,
established
there's four
here,
of us.
yeah, if you want to see celebrities, you go to the Whole
Yeah,
Foods.
that's what you learned.
City, it's where the action is.
That's where you're missing
And
it.
you know what? I'm really glad we were bringing up this point before we were on air. I'm really glad that so many people recognize and love us from Los Angeles. Not many, but some do. You know that all three of us are more than willing to do any work that you have.
Oh, yeah.
We are always on the search for jobs. So we're
The
glad
worst
that you love
paid
the show,
celebrities on earth.
but we would love it if you'd offer us other things like employment.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, huh?
You know, just because we own cafes and things like that.
Doesn't mean
love
we've
my
made money.
job.
Sometimes
Yeah, actually,
there
one
is
of us does make
Yeah,
money.
One of us
here.
does all right.
I love my job, guys.
To the
She
males
makes
on
money.
the show that need it.
Yeah,
you know.
man. So we just drink beer.
But yeah, we drink beer. But we've got
Great for us, man.
great people listening. Richard Wells, call out to you. I just delivered the Exorcist III prints.
Holy shit,
to
these
me,
things
to
are
everybody.
amazing.
They're amazing. He's slippery_Jack on Twitter. I know I posted it, but thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I know he's been a listener and supporter for quite a while, and I'm framing my Exorcist III
I am
prints.
framing mine as well. This is going in my office.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on my floor.
It's
I'm cold.
beautiful, though.
Yeah, it is really nice.
Best jump scare in the world.
Yep. Yep. Captured in this still.
But you haven't seen Woman in Black 2 yet.
I
Trumpet. They have lots of sound effects, I bet.
That's true.
That's how they roll.
bet they do.
You never know. Okay, so we're going to get to do our topic, Scream Queens, a little bit later with a very, very, very special guest, good friend of mine. But what have we seen this week? I've only seen a few things, very, very briefly.
Well,
Yeah,
first,
mine's brief, too.
I think we need to catch some people up on trivia.
Oh, yeah, we
night.
did some stuff. I think this is,
all right, sure.
Actually, a couple of things. Yeah, well, trivia, you let us co-host with you.
I let you. Mm-hmm. Yes, I
Hard
like
trivia,
that.
yes.
I'm in charge.
And people
so
seem to think we were hard.
I couldn't imagine
I feel like we had
that.
some really easy parts, but then some were hard. You know, it's a mixture.
I still really enjoyed the drawing the relic round.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it was? It was right as we went into the second round that I realized how hard our questions were.
Really?
And the problem was because I was trying to take out Jared Rivet, my old teammate who's listening.
I like that target, like
That's
honing
it.
in with
Honestly,
the questions.
he's the only person I was targeting. Everyone else
So
I
if it's
knew-
too hard for him, it means no one can get it.
Yeah, and he got them all anyway. So I was like, well, you know.
I've dubbed him the Wilt Chamberlain of horror trivia.
Can I tell you something, and this does not surprise me in the least, but he was actually telling me, because he's also a huge music buff, like he loves collecting, soundtracks and stuff, and if we do another episode, he wants to come in on that one. But when they did that fancy Blade Runner, briefcase, 5 editions of the movie thing or whatever, they had found, I guess, Ridley Scott's original work print of the film, and they had cued it with 14 cues of just music, just temp score. And when they found it for this release and they watched it, nobody could identify the score. They're like, what temp music are they using? They brought Jared in, and he identified, I think, 7, to correct me if I'm wrong, I think 7 out of the 14 cues right off the bat. Wow. He knew exactly what movies they were from.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow, that's what you're up against in our trivia.
But, a couple of my ones that I thought were like gimmies, no one got. In a whole room, 70 horror fans could not tell us the director of Don't Go in the House or Fade to Black. I bet one of my listeners could tell me Fade to Black.
Of either of those
They were
films.
hard. I got to admit, all of each other's questions were hard. I couldn't get
the psych round, but I think I maybe got one in the psych round.
My insect round was kind of easy because a copious amount of teams
that one
got
wasn't bad.
All 8 right.
Body horror was easy. The Giallo one was really fun.
Well, Giallo, Elric came up with a bunch of titles, and you had to say true or false. Did it really exist or not?
What is the fatted calf one? Roast the fatted calf and eat it.
Yeah,
is a real
totally
title in Giallo.
We have to find that movie immediately.
What was the black cat on a blue pillow?
Yes, that was a fake one on a blue satin pillow.
Scorpion with one red eye.
That was a fake one.
I want to make that movie.
It's funny. Some of the titles you really would like to see.
Yes.
But some of them were so bizarre. I mean, I was obviously looking for ones that I hadn't even heard of, because I didn't want to do Your Vices a lot. The ones that we would have at least half of people.
Yeah, but even people were on, the only one on there that I thought was obvious was Lizard in a Woman's Skin. And even people were on the fence about that.
Yeah. Well, because I placed them with other ones that seemed even more insane,
Yeah, and in fact, I think Jared was telling me he got in a fight with Collins because they were. I think Collins was convinced that all of them were false. That was the trick. He's like, nope, they're all made up. It's a trick.
That's
but
smart.
Lizard in a Woman's Skin, it's like, no, but that one's true.
Yeah.
So are they all false except that one?
Right, yeah, he was overthinking it.
Yeah, totally.
I had a total balance. I think I had half and half.
See, those are the rounds I like because that's a fair game all across.
That's what I was thinking.
Like
some of them are up for grabs,
We should at some point watch some of those films because I own so many of them, like Black Belly of the Tarantula.
I've seen a surprising lot of them. Because I wanted to make for the longest time that out of all these behind the scenes docs or these ones about subject. That's the only one I ever wanted to make. But I remember having a meeting with Dan Ferens and asking his advice, and he just thought that market. For the amount of money it probably cost you to put that kind of document and go to Italy, and he just thinks there was no market for that kind of documentary. But somebody's making one, so
Callum Waddell,
and I'm fine with that. I kind of just want to see it.
Yeah, me too.
And I want my JMB question answered. I need to know why JMB. There must be a definitive.
Why
people give me loose.
JMB?
It's in every single one of the films and featured to the point where they're like showing the label in every single job, and people come up with very generic. They're like, "Oh, maybe it was just popular at the time." No, there's going to be a specific reason, whether it's sponsorship or in Italy, maybe that was the whiskey of the time that made you seem rich, or whatever. There'll be a reason, but it's in every single film.
JMB one night. We drank it when we did the ice bucket thing.
Yeah, that's right. But no,
as if he needs an excuse to drink it.
I know.
But weird to think
I took a shot at like 3 p.m. for that, and then I remember like 10 minutes later, I was picking Marnie up from daycare. Luckily, I wasn't driving, but I was like, "Mommy's had a little bit to drink."
Which is one step, in Bekah's case, it's one step.
I'm a cheap date, guys. It's crazy.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And I think people, I think in general, people had fun, and we changed it up. Obviously, when it's hard, I think what it is, we've been playing this game, and this will lead into what you just changed. We've been playing this game, and one team's so dominant. I don't even think it's about us or whoever's asking questions. I think it's the result being beaten badly eventually just gets to people. It's like if you're playing basketball every time against Jordan and the Bulls, you would get tired of like, should I even bother playing hard today, or should I just like throw it in? And so because of that, Bekah made the smart choice of letting them host next month.
The winners.
Because I mean,
which was my idea 6 months ago, just so you know.
I know, and it was run by a couple of us several times, and then finally, it was like every single time they'd win a round, I felt the air being let out.
Yeah,
it was. And that was kind of killing me.
That was one of the first times I really felt that. I mean, there's been other times I felt people were just like, what's the point?
Yeah. But I mean, up to a point, I was like, well, it gives people something to fight for. You want to beat the winning team, you do better. There you go. That's your rationale. But finally, I was like, you know what? Let's just level it. So. Yeah, I think that next time will be well because they're co-hosting with me, so it'll be a good
fun.
time.
And also, we did a really, really fun event.
Oh, yeah.
This is like my favorite thing we're doing right now. It's called Live Spec Reads, and we're...
Oh, yeah, I was stuck in San Diego.
We're largely taking, from me, the idea was when Tarantino was doing that read of his new film, Hateful Eight. Yeah. It just made me think, you know what? Like, we had originally had an idea, me, Bekah, and a few others, of doing like a stage reading of like Friday 13th Part 3 and things like that. But then I realized, who gives a fuck? Like, that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah,
and the whole Jumpcut's always been about, like, for me, from the start, it's been about somehow bringing community and try to help get somebody's career going forward, or a short filmmaker brings his film and suddenly he feels good about himself and makes something. And so this was like the great idea is like these are films that aren't with a producer yet, but they're far enough along, like in a few drafts where they're tight and good, and we perform them and we see what energy comes from that. I knew a horror comedy would be a no-brainer and work. The next couple will be more challenging because you'll have to get into the story, not the comedy of them, and so we'll see how they work. And that level, it might not work as well. I have no idea how it's going to work. But
that'd be interesting.
It was really fun. We did Dick Rinnert's. I've been saying it wrong since the very beginning. I was calling it Community Service of the Dead, and he never corrected me.
It's Community Service of the Damned.
Even when I put it on post, he didn't correct me. I said, "Wouldn't you correct?" But anyway,
he's too nice.
Yeah, he used to. But it went brilliantly, and the performances were really fun. We had the voice of SpongeBob was one of the readers, which was crazy. Yeah. And next,
and Dick, the screenwriter who does it gets to cast it themselves. They get to pull together. That's why he had SpongeBob and
we the idea is to not just bring in the same people. And then we're doing Sean Keller's almost John Carpenter film,
LA Gothic,
on Friday 13th, which is really cool because it's a chance for people who maybe had heard about this but don't know what it is, and people like me who are too lazy to read it, just watch it and see it performed. And they're going to change, like, I think they have 36 speaking roles, but they have to cast probably 8 people and they have to keep changing. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting,
Yeah.
But it's just I love things that, like, I don't know, like even if I wasn't doing Jumpcut, I'd like somebody in LA to be doing things that aren't just here's a movie and we all watch a movie, like something that brings and connects and
No, it was a lot of fun.
It was. It was like, I wonder now how much I would have enjoyed just reading it. But I think the characters really were great in Dick's piece, and it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah. No, them performing it definitely got a lot of, you get instant feedback and reaction from the audience. Like, I'm sure it would have been fun to read, but hearing people act it out.
You can see it. It took me a few minutes. I was saying, like, at the start, I was like, is this? I think this was a terrible idea. Because the first, 4 minutes, you're like, I don't know, like, listening to people read a screenplay, I'm not really seeing it. And then as soon as the
started acting it, they started acting it out and stuff. It was fun.
So because of that, I'm going to wrap mine up very quickly here, guys. I really saw almost nothing this week because I am, this is a plug, February 21st, I'm launching a film festival I've wanted to start for years. I didn't necessarily want to do it in Hollywood, but underground film festivals have always been the most influential on me because the span of films are just all over the place. Sometimes I'll be bored by 4 and then see something that's the best thing I've ever seen. And I went to the Chicago one a lot. Me and Charlie, who I work with, and the guy who writes the Underground Film Journal, which reviews all underground festivals, just happened to live here and we didn't know him. We contacted him and he goes, "Oh, I've never been involved. I'd love to curate." So the three of us and we're literally kind of throwing this thing together over the last couple of months, trying to spend no money, keep it purely underground. So it's the Hollywood Underground Film Festival.
But you guys are at the Egyptian.
Well, we're in the small theater because I want to be in the small theater because I want 100 seats to fill my first time so I can do it again because I don't also want to pay for projection. It would cost thousands of dollars to book these places. So I've got the small theater. We have a major announcement that just broke yesterday. It might be, hopefully it's not premature, but David Gregory's anthology feature film called Betamax, they're not even completely done. We're going to be premiering that too. Oh, cool. So now we're going to have my 2 hours of shorts that are being curated and they're just crazy. I wouldn't say it's not all that narrative, some of them. And then there'll be a break. And then this first time ever anyone's going to see, these guys didn't even know. They were like, he's like, "Yeah, you could do that after." And we're like, they're all like, "I have to finish my movie," like Damon Packard and Jim So it was really cool. It's a cool energy to be launching it on. Our hope is to do this a couple times a year, to not be like just an annual film festival, to be more like a weird, crazy show and just get really insane if the first one works. So we're keeping it, the goal is very small for the first one, just to fill like 100 seats and feel like we should put on a good show. And then, but it was important to do it not in Jumpcut, do it in Hollywood to make it, it will play in Jumpcut eventually. But so I've been watching a lot of shorts. I will say these words: Crowhand. If you get a chance to see something called Crowhand, it's only about 5 minutes. It might be up already. I'm not sure. It's pretty insane, and it fits into the horror kind of stuff. It's funny and bizarre, but they range from like borderline horror to experimental to art house, whatever. You don't even know what you're watching, kind of.
Right.
Wow.
Which is very me, Okay. So it's fun to do something that's, because I wouldn't really just want to start a horror festival. I'd get bored eventually.
There's enough of those.
Exactly, and there are a lot of them. So,
LA.
and it's amazing to me in Hollywood there hasn't been something like that. And the only other thing I've been watching, kind of based on you, but also originally based on me, was I'm
I can't wait to
finishing
talk
the fall.
about this. Yeah.
I'm 2 episodes away from the end.
fall?
Oh, great.
Well, the fall first season I watched last year, I guess.
Yeah, well, let me pick
You can
this
preface
up
it because
then.
I didn't get through it yet.
Yeah, so I think the big deal, I mean, it's always great when these shows hit next Netflix Instant.
Well, I think it's a Netflix series. The second
what
season.
happened was
okay.
the first, it's I think it's BBC, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Irish.
I
That's
can't
maybe
it's
Irish Film Board
yeah.
or something.
But so the first season, Elric talked about several
Yeah,
months
it was a
ago.
while
It
ago.
stars Gillian Anderson, and they're all Irish, but she's British, or she has a British accent on the show.
She is British,
and she's kind of stalking a serial killer, and then I guess
Who is a big deal now because
well, hold on.
of who he, I mean who he is.
I know.
Okay.
Let me get to
All
that.
right, I'll leave.
But what the Netflix connection is, after the first season premiered, which I think was only 5 episodes, Netflix co-financed the second season. So even though they had 6 episodes for that, and once that finished airing in December, it popped up on Netflix Instant a few weeks ago.
It was recent, really recent.
So yeah, I mean, I remember you talking about it, and I wanted to see it, and I'm actually glad I watched it this way, all 11 episodes in a row, because I've never been more consumed by a show in such a short period of time. I mean, I can't even narrow it down to just being a quote unquote serial killer show. I can only say I think it's the best. It's the best look behind the curtain of what makes a serial killer who they are since Dexter season 4, the one with Lithgow.
Right.
I always thought the John Lithgow season was so fascinating because you really got to see every aspect of that character and why they were who they were and why they did what they did.
That was one of the best ones. And of
Yeah,
course
by
it
far.
ended with Lithgow's ass. Like, I've seen so many things with Lithgow's ass
he
in
was
it.
very naked in that, yes.
He was very
but,
naked.
So then this one is, Gillian Anderson's the main star. The killer is this actor named Jamie Dornan, who will be super famous because he is the lead of 50 Shades of Grey.
Which came out of nowhere. That casting obviously was based on The Fall,
which I understand completely. And here's the thing: the reason I love the show so much, I mean, somebody actually, I posted online about it on Twitter, and somebody said to me, who I guess watched it as it aired, was that, there's 6 really amazing episodes in those 11. Like, it's just padding. And I can understand that if you watched it week by week. I know that's the complaint a lot of people have with The Walking Dead. But I always enjoy The Walking Dead because I always watch every season when they're done and on Netflix or on Blu-ray. I marathon through them in a weekend, and I enjoy that deliberately paced storytelling. So I think The Fall, at least watching the 11 episodes in a row, was some of the most brilliantly written and executed stuff, and so much so that you're 2 episodes
away from finishing the second. Yeah,
wow.
The finale, which quite frankly, I'm sure a 3rd season is inevitable.
Okay,
but I would love it if they did not do it. That they almost ended it so and it's interesting because
if there's X-Files, there won't be any more Gillian.
Well, if there's any, hopefully maybe.
Right.
But no, I feel like they have an opportunity in a storytelling capacity to go out really high, And it's interesting because I read reviews that I was deeply, profoundly affected by the finale. And I don't think I would be if I just watched it like last episode. I think it's the 10 hours that came before it.
I think I'll do both tonight, like the last 2 together tonight.
And when you do, we'll discuss. Yeah. But there's 3 specific things in the finale that affected me so deeply that I had to rewatch it again 2 days later just to make sure.
The interesting thing about his character in relation to 50 Shades of Grey is that he's all about like tying women up, and there's a lot of kinkiness to his kind of sexual interest, and I find and withholding, like he doesn't just want to have sex with somebody, he kind of withhold. And so I'm like, that's really interesting that whoever was casting this, who was that famous photographer who's directing the 50 Shades of Grey, I can't remember her name, but she's more known as a fashion and art photographer.
Yeah, I don't know who did it.
It's just interesting to me. Like, I wonder if she saw something in that. I mean, he's very good looking.
Yeah, and
almost intimidatingly when you're watching. Like, really?
I think we have to point that out because that was he's this good looking guy that stalks very meticulously women and murders them. And it's awful. I mean, the first couple episodes, it's like, this is awful, awful stuff. But the way that they show his personal life, like he's a married man with kids and the way he is with his daughter and stuff.
Well, and he's a counselor.
And a counselor.
And a good one. He's actually quite a good counselor.
By the second season, there's just something so he's so good looking and so charming and so disarming that by the second season, I'm like, it's awful, but I almost don't want him to get caught, or I just want to know more about him.
I think it must be very close to like the Ted Bundy build up a scenario like a guy who's talented, he's a lawyer, he's good looking, he works at a suicide prevention hotline. It's Ted Bundy, you know. It's like
but there's something even not. Wait till you get to the finale and we'll talk about it. But in the same way that we recommended Black Mirror, I think this is the show that you need to see next.
Now, have you guys also been watching In the Flesh?
No.
BBC, it's a zombie show. I've only seen a couple episodes, but it's one of those that I really want to like find a weekend I can sit down and watch all of it. Hold on, Elric needs a bottle opener. In the Flesh, it's set during the zombie apocalypse. It's British. It's BBC.
Why'd you make it up?
Baptist.
Like, are you feeling in a corner here and you're just making up titles, throwing shit out there?
I swear to God, guys, check it out.
It really exists.
No, and it's very kind of Walking Dead-esque, where it's a group of people in the zombie apocalypse, but there's so much more to it because the people aren't, like, at least in the episodes I saw, they're not always just zombies. Like, they're ones that they call rotters, and then there's ways to mask that you're a zombie so that you can still continue in society.
Oh, weird.
And it's got a lot of cool levels, and it's kind of comedic in large chunks of it. I mean, it's very British humor, but it's got a lot to it, and it's really good. I'm
really curious so curious. I can't even imagine what they're going to do with the other Walking Dead spinoff, because it's a risky play. I was talking to somebody who was saying that they know, certain cast members who are like freaking out because it's going to be different. It's like a different thing. But the lead is this great actor from New Zealand, in the new series. And so I'm excited because he's one of my favorite actors from New Zealand, but he's going to be the lead of this show set in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And they haven't said if it's set before, after, or at the same time. They said it's going to be very different. So it's very hard to imagine, either it's going to oversaturate things or it's going to be awesome. It'd be really cool if it's just a different scenario, different playing out in a different location. But I don't know. It's one of those things I'm just kind of excited to see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's good storytelling, then I'm okay for more of it. But part of you feels like, well, why don't they take that money they're going to invest in a new show and just put it towards the original show and
get them out of Georgia?
Get them out.
Because I would like to see I would really like to see them go somewhere else.
I've gotten kind of bored with them.
That's inevitable.
So.
But the only other thing I saw besides the fall was Vampire's Kiss, the 1988.
Am I getting through to you, Alma?
Oh my God!
Let
me tell you something. I did not like it.
Are you serious?
At all? And here's the thing. Okay,
I think he was on cocaine for most of it.
I'm sure of it. But so Vampire's
Jim
Kiss
Carrey one, right?
No. That's Once Bitten.
You're talking about Nicolas Cage.
Vampire's Kiss is the Nick Cage, the 1988 Nick Cage movie. Scream Factory's putting it out on a double bill with High Spirits on February 10th. So I got to check it out. And Vampire's Kiss, I guess it's one of those movies that completely. I'm a huge 80s buff, as you, if you listen, and I love 80s comedies. And I think I was just expecting like a Once Bitten type of goofy sort of comedy. I didn't know what to expect at all. Everyone's like, oh, it's Nick Cage being crazy and whatever. And I put it on, and it's actually really mean-spirited and kind of nasty.
He's a dick in it, especially to his secretary.
He's unlikable, completely unlikable. And I'm like, this is mean-spirited in an American Psycho kind of way.
Okay.
And because of what may or may not be going on, you're just like, oh, is this supposed to be kind of an American Psycho thing? So I didn't find it funny or really entertaining. I mean, I guess it's interesting, but I feel like if that was a movie I saw when I was younger on TV, and certain things would stand out and I would appreciate now as an adult. But watching as an adult, I was kind of like...
I watched it on TV as a kid, and the only thing I remember was the cockroach thing. I remember it being felt really real, and it wasn't a fun movie. That's all I remember about it.
See, I watched it as a teenager, and then it was by that time I was much more aware of Nick Cage being batshit crazy, and it was hilarious. So I haven't rewatched it since then, but I still remember just him.
Well, I think because we're used to him being... Crazy Cage. It's not funny to see Crazy Cage when he's I see him that young. I think Raising Arizona, where he's amazing, like that kind of Cage or whatever. I will say it was disappointing to see Jennifer Beals. She's topless in a lot of these scenes, but the power of high definition shows her pasties. So I was immediately taken out of the movie.
Oh, you mean you weren't meant to see them? It's meant to look like...
yes. Yeah, you can make out
tan.
that... No, you could see that there's things over.
Hold on, I have to look up Mr. Skin.
I tweeted it. You could find a
Mr.
picture
Skin, Jennifer
that I tweeted the other day.
But I also, I was talking with Jared Rivet and a few other people about this online. High Spirits, the one that's on the combo with.
Yeah.
I used to love that movie.
I can't wait to watch it.
I have not seen it in so long. And it's probably awful just going by it's one of those films that I absolutely loved when I was in fourth grade, which means I'm going to watch it now and go, oh, this isn't as good as I remember.
But it's got
for it.
Gutenberg. I hope it's better than
It
Vampire's
does,
Kiss.
and it's got Beverly D'Angelo in it and Daryl Hannah.
I guess if you're being put two films on one disc, it's usually a sign that there's some lack somewhere. Like in one of them, there's going to be an issue.
Well, we can't. Yeah, exactly.
You're being dumped in some way.
After I saw it, I talked to Jared about Vampire's Kiss, and he said that it'd make a great double bill with Martin, which I totally agree. I'm like, oh, okay. So that gives a lot of hints as to the theme of that film. That's all I saw. What about you guys?
Well, I saw one movie. Well, I spent most of my week kind of rushing to get Fantastica done, which is a new magazine that Fango's putting out. And it's kind of Fantastica, which was the original name of
Fantastique? Wasn't there a Fantastique though? Or Cine Fantastic?
No, we're Fantastica. Fantastica was actually the original name of Fangoria, and we were threatened with lawsuits because at the time there was another magazine called Fantastica, and that has long since folded. So we've launched Fantastica, which
What's the idea?
We're doing it quarterly, and it's kind of a melange of all different, but it looks, we're trying to give it the look and feel of the original Fango. And it covers, it's not like the Fango where it goes through a lot of like modern day films. We're doing it, Fango's been doing these kind of blind assortment boxes. So like you can order like our Valentine's Day box and it's got all types of stuff in it. And these will come in that, and it's like comic book sized. So like for the Valentine's Day one, I did the 25 best horror love films.
Wait, are we being paid for this plug?
No.
All right, continue.
But that's where I spent my whole week because we were like scrambling to get it done ahead of the mad snowstorm hitting the East Coast. So we were like rushing to get it done before then. So that was most of my week. But I did watch one movie that I really liked, and it's not horror, but I still have to push it because I think that it would appeal to the
You've
same
already
audience.
talked about romancing. Oh, Jewel of the Night. Keep going.
Lucy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to see it.
I really was not expecting to like because
I'm just skin too. I can't wait.
I had read all of these reviews about it, like, oh, it doesn't make sense. It's got all these weird edits and things. And someone had told me beforehand, it's not supposed to, be crystal clear. It's not supposed to be like a big budget action film. It's an exploitation film. And so I watched it in this vein. Don't think of it as like, a big Hollywood action film where everything is smooth. Think of it more as like shoot 'em up, or even the guy's prior
I heard
work,
good
like
things. I heard from some
Element.
people saying it was really kick-ass and fun.
It's kick-ass and fun. I had so
and it's
much
Luc
fun
Besson,
with
Mr.
it.
Professional. He's got to make a good film every 10 years. Come on.
No doubt.
It's been a few struggles along the way.
We've been waiting since then.
Yeah.
So,
She had a crazy year, man. Between that, Under the Skin, and Captain America, you're like, Jesus, like that's very different work.
And a childbirth.
She had a child?
She had a kid, yeah. She was
Scarlett Johansson had a kid?
She was pregnant during Avengers 2. Yeah.
Someone
I
had
did not.
sex with
Who's
that,
her
yes.
husband?
I don't know who she's married to now.
Ryan Reynolds?
It was Ryan Reynolds, but not him anymore.
I don't know who it is.
Give me 5
I did not know
seconds
she was
on
pregnant.
this.
I had never heard that.
All right.
But yeah, so Lucy.
Her body's been sullied. Burn her.
I really liked Lucy, so it was a good one. So I highly
I want
recommend
to see
checking
that.
it out.
How did you watch it?
I watched it. I got it HD off Amazon. I think it was like $5.
Cool.
All right.
I did want to mention this. I don't know if you guys, I forgot to mention that. I mean, this is kind of like weird gossip, but did you guys hear about the director of Bloodsucking Freaks?
No.
Yes.
On New Year's,
something
just like
that.
this old guy got arrested for like crazy violent groping.
Yeah,
and you're just like, oh.
He's kind of creepy.
No,
to
but that
begin
movie's
with.
really an ugly movie.
Right.
It's always been one
so
of those
you're
movies.
not surprised.
No, I mean, well, you're always surprised but it was just one of those random stories I saw pop up, and I didn't know if it was a true story at first, and then I just dug. I don't think there's much there.
He was
Right.
kind of well known in the New York horror
Oh, really?
scene
As being a
kind
groper?
no, just as being like freaking batshit.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah.
All right.
Watch out. Anyway, Bloodsucking Freaks.
I've now gone on record saying it. The few times I've met him, he's been a little.
Why don't we talk a couple, like even just 1 minute about Scream Queens before our guest comes? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that list you put up that list today.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about that list?
I agreed with a good portion of it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, one of the things I want to get into with our
her,
guest, and we've talked very briefly about this, is the idea of a Scream Queen versus a final girl or a survivor girl. Like, what distinguishes, a Scream Queen? And I brought up I have the Wikipedia here of just Scream Queen, the term. And I'm just curious about like when it started and all that.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe that you have to have screamed in a movie to be a scream queen? I think so.
Yeah, of course.
So I think there's a lot of actresses who I love who might get lumped in there who really aren't scream queens.
This is the father of Scarlett Johansson's child. His name is Roman something. So that's what you have to compete with.
I got that.
All right. Enough of the TMZ style of the show.
But I'm genuinely, we'll wait till we talk to her. But I'm curious. There's so many actresses, I think, because they're women, get lumped into this title. Because,
which is why,
Okay, we'll wait.
Yeah.
I'm too
Wait
impatient.
like 5 seconds.
Oh, is she here? As I was asking Rob.
Don't take my
I can't
notes.
remember what we were talking about.
We were talking about the list of Scream Queens
Oh, yeah.
that Rob posted
We'll start with that.
online.
None of that. It's all gibberish, what you're looking at right
It's
now.
good stuff.
Tiffany
No.
stole his notes.
No, she did. But our very special guest, somebody that I wanted on this show, I think initially for episode 69, just because I thought that'd be funny. And we couldn't make it work out.
That's why I fucking love Tiffany.
Exactly. One of our old friends, Tiffany Shepis. Welcome. As we all
Hello.
drink our beer.
I have
Old
Cheers.
friends, I just met you for like 2 seconds ago, but cheers.
But it was a good friendship. That's how we like
it's
each
a
other.
brief friendship.
Brief.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I thought Scream Queens would be the perfect topic for this, just because Tiffany is, in my opinion, and the term Scream Queen gets thrown around a lot, but like you and Debbie Rochon are kind of, in my opinion, the last legit Scream Queen.
The end.
You're the end of a rare bloodline.
Well, I mean,
That ends with you. Turn off the lights, cut her on.
we'll get to that.
can
I
we
mean,
get?
my point being is, you used to get that title after doing. I mean, we'll define it like doing a certain amount of work, but now it's like if you go and shoot a backyard thing and then you show up at a convention, and you say, "I'm a Scream Queen."
It's true.
Those are self-proclaimed Scream Queens.
Exactly.
Like it used to be when I started, like sounding very old, but when I was doing conventions, like when I first started out, it was you had to be kind of labeled that by whether it be like media people, like if they called you that in Fangoria magazine, or you did it was either you had to do a big enough movie that made an impact on the genre, or you had to make hundreds and hundreds of these films, like the Brink Stevens of the world and the Julie Strains. Or you had to make one impactful movie like a Jamie Lee Curtis. And then either way, you got labeled Scream Queen. Now it's like you make a basement movie and it's, I have a
Call themselves
calendar.
that.
I get dozens of press releases a week that say like starring Scream Queen, name I've never heard of, who starred in one tiny little backyard horror film. So.
Yeah, and you're like,
But I
not
mean, it's
that.
become a promotional term because everybody who does conventions wants to be called a Scream Queen now.
Well, it's better than saying, "Hi, I'm so-and-so out of work actress that you've never heard of."
Yeah.
It's like
Blind
it's better to
actress
have
who's
a
been appeared
label.
in 3 things. Yeah.
Well, so when's the first time you heard that term?
Jewel Shepard, Scream Queen.
Yes, legit Scream Queen.
Legit Scream Queen, was writing at the time for Time Out New York magazine, and she did a little blurb article on me. It was mostly about my ass at the Chiller Theater convention because I wore some really glorious, classy outfits back then. And she said, "This is we haven't had Scream Queens in a while, but this is one, something to that effect." And I was like, "No shit, like Jewel Shepard, like that's awesome." And to me, it was like I could stop making movies. I could stop doing whatever. And
All
I
right,
think
so
I'd only
your
made
rule,
4.
If a legit Scream Queen calls you a Scream
Right.
Queen, then
You
you
can
are
be a
one
Scream
too,
Queen.
right?
I like it.
Well, Tiffany,
Yeah, because you can't even say like legit media anymore because like there's like not this
people
podcast,
like us.
Yeah.
but there's a
Schlips like
million Joe Nobodies that have
Yes.
a
Blogs.
blog
Yeah.
or a fanzine that if those still
Well,
exist.
it goes hand in hand with there being lots of Scream Queens, I guess. Lots of podcasts, lots of media, lots of Scream Queens.
Yeah.
It kind of deflates what it even
Well,
is.
it's kind of like, hey, hot Scream Queen girl, come into my
Yeah.
basement and do my podcast. Blow me.
We
It's
aren't
like,
in the
now you're a
basement, by the
Scream
way.
Queen.
no, we're in an official studio.
Yeah.
It's
Official.
fun. But no, I
We
mean,
should get a
there
basement,
was-
guys. We
You
really-
should
Let's
set
not be
this like a
creepy.
just for that
basement.
blowing
Yeah.
thing. That sounds like good. You can't do it here. It's too legit.
Yeah, we need a basement.
Go
guys.
next door to the creepy bar.
Oh, yeah. Creepy
Oh,
bar.
that's
yeah.
where we're
Well,
headed.
that's after
Sounds good.
this.
So define Scream Queen. Is that your job?
I will look it up on Wikipedia.
So see,
which I-
Well,
There's
because it
just
looks
going to
like
be a picture of me.
But it looks like a lot of actresses who never even scream in a movie and are more like kick-ass survivor
and
characters.
that's
That's
how
not
I
Scream
always
Queen.
define it.
Really?
See, that's how I always define it. Is the Scream Queen is almost the final girl. It's the female who has been in many horror films and has the endurance to fight through to the end. That is the Scream Queen for me. It's not the one
Well,
who
the-
dies
but-
immediately.
See that what's Survivor Girl versus Scream Queen though?
Final girl.
Final
Final
girl,
girl,
or
yeah.
Survivor girl.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you on the other side. It was like final girl, Scream Queen. Scream Queen to me was most often. I mean, see, I'm contradicting myself because I said Jamie Lee Curtis kind of thing.
But Linnea Quigley dies in a lot of movies.
I
And
died
she's
in a lot of
Scream Queen,
movies.
yeah.
A lot of it went hand in hand. I mean, if you're talking 80s Scream Queens and 90s and early 2000s, everything was straight to DVD, and the more nudity you had, the better. It was Scream Queens ran around, got chased by a killer, got naked, died.
Right.
Um,
Not the survivor character. Yeah. Because people like Sybil Danning and that. Sybil Danning is not a Scream Queen. She's never once played a victim. She's never once run away from anything. She kicks down doors and shoots people. And so to me, she's like, it wouldn't even be in that conversation. There's certain
But what
actresses
about, like,
that
Sigourney Weaver?
I mean, she's not. She's been a survivor once, but she was never a scream queen. Never was scared. Never ran away. Never.
Yeah, but making one like a powerful, impactful movie that made an impact on the genre, I think, can give you any label you want.
Yeah, exactly. I think she can choose her label, and I think she won't choose scream queen. Maybe
Probably not.
Whereas Jamie Lee Curtis, I see why. That,
Well,
and
she was
Chambers. I mean,
Yeah, I'm going to contradict myself right now and say, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original,
That's a scream
that I definitely would call a scream queen because, well, and see, she's so weak in that film. Like I know she survives the film, but I never consider her a final girl because she never does anything to fight back. It's literally just
she jumps through a window. So that's
jumps
survivor.
through a window,
You can't
but
fight back against three guys, torturing you at a dinner table.
But
You have
all
to jump
she
through a
does
window.
the entire movie is scream and run. I mean, she never picks up a weapon. She never kicks him in the crotch. It's just scream and run.
Rules. You have to scream or kill somebody awesomely with a big weapon.
Okay.
What's the biggest weapon you've ever killed with? Yeah, you didn't think this through.
Shit. I have killed someone with a corkscrew.
Oh, that's the smallest. I like that though.
We'll go
You
with
had
inventive,
what are those called? Those like bow and arrow, like the
Harpoon.
a crossbow.
Please be a harpoon.
That's a big weapon, right?
It's not. That's just like a.
Bigger than a corkscrew, right?
It is bigger than a corkscrew.
It's alright. It's bigger than a bread box.
I'm making a movie where somebody kills somebody with a harpoon. It's happening.
There you go.
I don't think I've ever killed anyone with a chainsaw. I have not done that.
Wow.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
Bucket list.
Bucket list. Chainsaw death.
Man. Okay, so they have to scream.
Okay.
They have to fight or kill somebody, like awesomely. It has to be a movie that's super impactful to the genre, or be in a shit ton of horror movies. And in that case, you have the added bonus that you have to get naked.
Oh.
And covered in blood, right?
Well, yeah, duh.
That's just
Have you been
Why
like,
would you get naked
what's
and
the
not be covered in
bloodiest
blood?
film you've been put in? Like where you were just
Probably the violent kind.
Okay.
Okay.
Only
Kind.
because
I didn't know.
it was like,
Is that the one with the bikers?
yeah,
Oh,
I'm the possessed
I saw that a
one.
long time
I crawled
ago.
around
Yeah,
on the
okay.
ceiling covered in blood.
Yeah,
You didn't
I've seen
recognize
that.
me because of all.
The blood. Boom.
Ooh, did that
Yeah,
suck
was a
on
legit film.
set?
Yes.
Ugh.
A lot.
I
A
hate
lot of suck.
being covered in stage blood. It's just sticky.
Sticky.
So, it's gross.
Yeah, and like it would dry on me, and so I'd get really, really sticky, and then they douse me again. So it was like, oh, look fresh. So it was just like layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. But it was kind of like the dopest part I got to play all the time. So I was like, whatever, just keep doing it as long as it looks cool.
Well, let's make that clear. Is that I've known Tiffany for a long time, and she is through and through a huge horror fan. I mean, your first step, you like gave me a look.
I don't know. Well, my taste has changed lately.
Lately, okay.
Lately. But yes, when you met
But
me,
the
I was like
point
a
is-
really huge horror fan, like super nerd.
Meaning, you started out, was Charlie and Juliet your first movie?
Something like that. Like probably the first one that ever went anywhere. Yeah.
Right. So you started out doing some of the trauma stuff, and you never had any problem with like, I just want to be in horror movies.
Well, because
right?
I never wanted to be an actor. Like I got the Romeo and Juliet thing because there was the actors paper in New York. It was called Backstage, and I read it and it was like, oh, they're looking for extras. Like, how cool would that be? I'll just ditch school and go to it. And they gave me an actual like little part.
How old were you when you did that one?
16,
Wow.
15 or 16.
Did Lloyd know that?
I kind of lied a lot. Like first I said I was 19. And then I started to get this like super fear when they started sending over the paperwork for me to sign that like I was going to sign this and lie and then get blacklisted, like or like get sued or like go to like
Blacklisted from
juvie.
trauma.
Like there was like all these weird things because like I didn't know anything about the industry. So I called them up and I was like, look, in all the excitement, and getting a part, I forgot I'm not 19. I'm 17. And it was like another fucking lie. It made no sense, but I guess they knew I was lying, didn't really care. I wasn't getting naked, so.
That's funny.
But yeah, that was my first one, and it was crazy because trauma in New York, like as you guys know, like they're huge, especially then. Like so when they premiered Romeo and Juliet, it wasn't just like this little rinky-dink thing. Like there were like hundreds of people there, tons of fans, and when they went to a convention, the presence was like unbelievable.
It's still that way in New York because like I went to Poltergeist when they did the premiere in New York, and it was huge. couch and people dressed as chickens, and it was just insane. Yeah. And so Trauma still holds that kind of like, this is New York underground filmmaking power. Like everybody wants to be involved.
Yeah, like the fandom that goes with it, it's hard to not become addicted to it, especially at a young age. You're like, are you serious? Like, these people are here to see me? Like, people would ask for my autograph on stuff, like, and knew what I played in the movie. I was like, thought like I was basically just like an extra, you know?
Must have been hard working for like a hack director as your first film, because, you know, working with struggling directors who aren't going to go anywhere because they work at Trauma, just to say.
Wait, but who directed Trauma? I think you're thinking of the writer.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Well, he also was a co-director.
Yeah, he was.
James Gunn and Lloyd
co-directed
the movie together.
Wow.
Okay.
It was a
that James Gunn guy, he's going nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he did go on to do PG porn starring Tiffany Shepis and Belladonna.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know what he's done
He owes
since
you
then.
Guardians too. He owes you some role as an intergalactic, someone who doesn't take off their clothes.
So that's right. People listen to this and hashtag James Gunn cast Tiffany Shepis.
James obviously is a huge
I think
fan
that's
of
fair.
us and
I think
stuff,
it needs to be a really dramatic role that's very serious.
Yeah.
Right? Just because of, you know, what he did in Tromeo. So.
Yeah.
So you didn't really initially, because you were young and doing trauma movies, you didn't initially take the whole acting thing seriously. I don't even know this period of your life. Like, I didn't know if there was a point where you're like, I just always knew you as like, oh, I just want to do horror movies. I didn't know if you actually thought like, oh, I want to try to act and do dramas, or like, you just didn't strike me as that type of person.
Musical theater.
You know what my thing was that the horror stuff, like I really loved it. I loved the energy of going on a set and people liking the same stuff I did. I thought being covered in blood, I thought I looked really hot. So all those things were super appealing to make horror films. But I got to a point where it wasn't like, oh man, I need to be a serious actor. But it was more like, well, I've kind of done this. Like, I've done that role for you 100 times. Like, I don't think they really care to see my boobs anymore. I don't think this part's going to really make your movie any fucking better, dude. Like, so I would try to get better stuff. But unfortunately, you know, the genre's super, super, super loyal. But there is that thing where it's like, oh, it's just a scream queen. And I have an interesting story about the guy that I'm married to now who said those exact words for a movie that he was casting. And it was like, well, she's just a scream queen. I don't want a scream queen. I want a serious actor. And turned out the best fucking thing in that movie. Frankenstein Syndrome. Watch it. Own it. Love it.
Let's pretend he's not in the room right now. And continue. Tell us more about this husband of yours.
Yeah, really, really bad taste when it came to casting. And he got forced to use me. But anyway, but that's the thing. It's like the double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, having the Scream Queen title attached to you is like, oh shit, she's a Scream Queen. She's made 100 movies and she comes with this little, you know, teeny fan base. But in our world, it's really, really huge. But for people trying to do something outside of the box, it's like, oh, well, it's just a Scream Queen. Like, they can't act, they can't do this, or, you know, they just run around screaming and they show their boobs. But on the flip side, I kind of always thought, like, you know, horror film wise, it's like you got to do comedy. You have to be dramatic. You have to learn to fucking cry just like that because they're not giving you 7 takes. You know, you kind of have to have it all if you're good. And, well, you know. I just popped my collar, listeners.
All right, I have to tell the story. This is not the way that Tiffany is now, but several years ago, I mean, you used to work a lot. I mean,
you're telling everyone how little I work now.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. But I mean, like,
she's real lazy now. She's drinking beer, hanging out.
No, meaning that you would do like 20 horror movies, and the thing I loved is I'd bump into you, and you'd always say, "Oh my god, I just did the absolute worst movie that I've ever done in my entire life." And every new time was a new worse movie than the last. And you'd say things like, "Oh my god, I think they had $4,000 for this movie, and 2 of it they gave to me. I don't know how they finished it." I don't know why they paid me that.
Like,
but
how do you just show up on set knowing that this is, and keep a straight face?
Well, because I usually don't know. Like, it's straight blindsided. You know, it's like, well, you know, because I think if they're going to willing to pay my rate, they have to have something decent. And like, you know, now I've gotten to the point where I ask, you know, like, exactly how much do you have and this, but like then it was like,
that's what I mean.
Is that the lowest budgeted film? 4,000? Do you think that's the lowest you've worked on? Or
I don't think I've worked on a $4,000 budget.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I have some of them look like it. I imagine fucking terrible. But no, like it definitely was like, you know, I would sometimes show up, you know, at some airport in the middle of Alabama and not know like who's coming. And thankfully, knock on wood, I've 99% of the time have had really cool people. Maybe they're not the most talented, but I've had genuinely good experiences, but it certainly didn't have to go that way, you know, like, you know, in somebody's garage.
Have you ever been in one that didn't get finished, like a film where all sorts of weird shit went down and got weird, and even if you can't name them?
Yeah,
have you had an
yeah,
unfinished
this
film?
is weird. And they had money for this film. And the director didn't tell his wife he was making a movie. So he would show up to set in like his insurance salesman or whatever he did for work, like his suit.
That's cool.
And then go change, and then like right at the end of the day, we'd have to wrap like right at 5:30, and he would change like back into his work gear.
That's a movie in itself.
And go home.
Wow, I want to write a movie about
that guy.
He's amazing. And then like at certain points, like he couldn't, like, because we had to shoot on the weekends, we'd have a co-director, and this like dude came in, nobody knew him. They put me up at this like really amazing, like, because often if you're on or if I've been on a project for like weeks, you're not at like just a hotel, like put you up in an apartment, you know, where it's kind of, you can cook and do your own thing. It's rather, I don't know, probably cheaper for them. But this was like an unfurnished, weird retirement home.
Wow.
And I remember looking around going, my God, everyone here is like really old in this complex. But this complex is really cool. They had a movie theater. They had a bar. And so one night I was sitting down at the bar and this guy is like, well, who are your grandparents that you're visiting? I'm like, well, I'm not. They're like, well, you have to be. This is a retirement community. And it was like this whole scam. Like, why I was there. It's so uncomfortable. Movie's not out. Oh, and at one point they painted my face and it was like, I look like from Cats. Like the music. Like trying to be scary. Like, arr. And I kept telling the dude, I'm like, dude, this doesn't work. He's like, no, these are the best face painters in Manhattan. I'm like, what the shit?
Oh my God.
We shouldn't do this. And there was another scene, I look like a dead baby bird. God. And that our effects guy was really dope. Like he actually meant to do that. So that kind of worked out. But
so was it a money thing, you think, or was it he just didn't want her to know he had left his job or something?
Or his wife. Yeah, his wife was pissed about it.
No, I think it was he took all his money, like their savings, like maybe like $100,000 of like kids' college fund or something. Yeah. And then it turned out that when they did find out, like a year later, oh God, I'm gonna get sued probably.
We'll cut it. But if you're hearing that, if you're not hearing this, we got
bleep out the name. But at one point, a year later, the wife found out, and like she was super pissed, and she's like, "Well, you made this movie, and you didn't even put our daughter in it." So he had to go and rewrite all these scenes and give the daughter like this lead role, which she certainly didn't have. So the whole thing's really disjointed, and still hasn't come out.
Wow.
That's like now my most anticipated movie.
Yeah, it's like
it's funny how a bad story can make a film so much more appealing.
I have a better thing about it. Hold on. So then, like about a half a year ago, I get an email from him, and he wrote all these questions. He's writing a book, and he's writing a book about the movie. And I was like, "But the movie's not out, dude." He's like, "I know, it's going to coincide."
Tommy Wiseau styles.
And so, and there were all these questions for me, and he's like, "Would you mind doing an interview?" I was like, "Well, dude, this is me like writing the fucking book. Like, usually this would be like 10 questions. It's like 60. Well, haven't I done anything for you?" And I'm like, well, yeah, anything. No, you haven't done anything for me. I showed up on your movie. I did my job. And, well, I've always been nice to you. Why won't you do this in return? It was like so fucking weird. So I answered like one question, and like. Yeah. Anyway,
wow.
So.
I wanted to make a movie about Manos, Hands of Fate, and the story behind that. Fuck that shit.
This is much better.
I'm making this movie.
Do it.
It would be cool if your movie came out before the actual movie. If you could rush it into production.
Speaking of script, Debbie Rochon's in that movie, and Tina Krause.
Oh wow!
It's a triple.
Why do I find you can answer
queens.
this to me? I've often wondered why I find Debbie Rochon so attractive. There is a quality of I've never met her, but I see her like just in snippets, and out of like pretty much everyone in that world, there's something about her, and I don't know what it is. But you've worked with her a bunch of times, right? What is the quality that she has? And because she's very New York, right? The accent, which isn't something I would have found
She's Canadian.
Is she?
Yeah.
But she's lived in New York a long time, right? So she has that.
lived in New York, since Tromeo. She moved there like right before.
I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know what the quality is.
Yeah.
She has but she has some sort of quality about her that seems, maybe it's like a powerful, like, I don't know.
She's a tough chick.
Yeah, she doesn't seem weak.
Tough chick.
You know? I like that.
You probably like to be like slapped around.
She's to follow up on what she said in terms of her being a tough chick. She's lived life, and I think you could kind of see that in her. Like she's a very wonderful woman. I've met her several times, and she's super sweet. But like she's like really into the punk rock scene, and was she friends with like Sid Vicious or something crazy?
She dated a member of the Sex Pistols.
Our
desks were side by side at Fango
you would know
for
better
like
than me.
years.
You know what's attractive about a lot of the Scream Queens that like we all believe is Scream Queens, like Debbie Rochon and Brink Stevens and Linnea Quigley, is that they are fans of the genre, which is cool because like you can kind of see like it's not just somebody kind of jumping in and like, oh, I'm going to come here and pretend to be your friend and we're going to talk about this, but meanwhile I give a shit about what you do.
Right.
It's like, and I think that's hot, you know, and like fans find that hot, and
that makes sense. Yeah.
You find that
evidently. But it's like usually when I find someone hot, I can understand why. With Debbie Rochon, I've never really like. Besides, she's attractive, of course, but there's some other quality. I'm like, what is it that you?
She'll kick your ass.
Maybe I don't know.
That's it.
I guess that's my Sybil Danning thing too. I guess I'm just like want to be beat up by you know.
so they are going to make like
punch me in the face.
Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS remake.
So something rising. We won't say what the title is. That's the one to watch out for. All right.
Yeah.
Beep rising. That's what we're going to say.
It may or may not be about wolves that are female.
All right.
Wow.
That should be a.
Oh.
Did you have a Scream Queen when you were watching movies before you did it? Or once you started, was there anyone you were watching in films going, oh, that's really cool?
Yeah, like who did you
Not
look up
necessarily in movies. Like, I mean, I thought everybody was cool. Like, I liked a lot of fun, crazy movies like Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bullerama and Night of the Demons, you know, Kevin Tenney's Night of the Demons before I got to be in the remake, which was dope. But I what I really found super cool was seeing these women at conventions and seeing how cool they were with the fans. And Brink Stevens was like 100% like my go-to. Like I watched that woman was like class act all the way. Like always really gracious, always really like excited to like sign the bullshit that people brought to her. And sometimes it was weird shit or like unflattering photos, but still like she'd like, you know, say something charming about it. And she's super smart. So whereas like, you know, a lot of people like, you know, play up the like, oh, I'm so dumb and stupid and look at my boobs. Like she's a smart lady. She's like a molecular biologist.
It's insane. It's like biology from San Diego.
Yeah.
That's cool.
She's also, Brink in particular, is like a total pro in every aspect of this because I interviewed her for the Psycho Legacy and she's in Psycho 3 as a body double. Like literally there's 2 shots where she's supposed to be the naked version of Diana Scarwood. And, you know, I just thought it'd be cool because it's Brink Stevens. Like I'm a fan. It'd be cool to have her in the doc talking about it. And I mean, the way that she presented herself in that interview and the story she told, like you could tell she's done this a million times. She knew exactly what sound bites you'd want.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like total pro, total sweet person. And
her voice is crazy sexy.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
Pretty darn
I'm
nice.
always shocked how good you are
you.
at conventions, though, because I know like Tiffany and I end up at a lot of conventions together. And by like the end of the day on Sunday, I'm always like, fuck this shit. I just want to go home. And you're still perky. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I'm so like,
Yeah, but you're not being paid.
No, wait. Lately, nobody's getting paid at these conventions.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's part of my job for Fango, so it's like it's incorporated into my salary.
I genuinely have a good time with those things, but I do, if you looked at my phone during a convention, it's me texting my husband like, I fucking hate everybody. This asshole next to me is not a fucking celebrity. No one here's a celebrity. I hate everyone. These all fucking cocksuckers. Like,
why can't they turn the air conditioning on in this room? Yeah, that's how
why does that lady look like a tree trunk? And why did she rip off that guy's movie? You know, like it's it's a lot of that.
But you always are so good with the fans through the whole
I love
thing.
the fans. Yeah. It's usually the celebrity guests that I hate.
No, and that's how I always feel. It's like the logistics and the politics behind the convention always make it so much worse than like getting to meet people who genuinely have a passion for horror. That's what I fucking love. It's just
like the fan people are great. Like I just get these like these nagging celebrity-ish people like in my ear, like bitching about their guarantee, and I'm looking, I'm like, who the fuck would be dumb enough to give you a guarantee to be here? Like, why are you here?
There was one, it was one that you and I were at in Sacramento last year where I won't say who it is because this is just our TMZ show, but a celebrity punched another celebrity in the bar
two tap. And that's my favorite story in the whole world because the guy that got punched did a movie with me, and you guys can search this.
It was awesome.
And he kind of deserved to be punched, and it's super awesome. And then he found him again and like had to have like a face-to-face, like, you gonna do this again? Should I smack you down?
Wow.
It was the weirdest moment
smokes.
ever because it was literally like it was me and Tiffany and I think Stacey Pippa was there and Kevin Tenney, and we were all sitting at this table and I was eating calamari and
Does it have any connection to a Joss Whedon?
It may.
Ah, I know the story
And then,
I know
like,
who
2 seconds later,
I did
they were
remember
just
reading about this.
punching each other at the bar.
And the celebrity that was the two-tapper, the name starts with T. That's all I'm gonna say.
I didn't
That's
even
it.
Wow.
Stepping out.
Done.
This is our TMZ style show.
And that dude's a
exciting.
badass.
Oh, really?
Like a badass. So
The cliche of the stalker fan, or I mean, obviously most fans are awesome. Are there those fans that start to believe? Have you had any of those people who really start to believe you're part of their life because they look at your material so much?
no, they start to believe they're part of my life because my husband invites them over for Christmas and gives them our home
wait a
phone.
minute.
No, I'm kidding. That's totally me.
Everyone's looking at him like he wants to tune in now. He's like,
No. Here, I'll tell you the truth. Because of my love of the genre, because starting out so young, because I think being able to make a living doing this is like, wow, this is pretty super cool, and I should really never complain because I know lots of people, like myself included, like that have really shitty jobs and that, you know.
a lot of fans save up, work hard, so they
Yeah,
can
you
go
work
to things
really,
like
really
this.
hard to come meet us. So I would kind of go way out of my way to make you super happy and sign everything you have and shake your hand and have a drink at the bar and take a picture. And when you're like, hey, I'd love to have your number so I could text you a birthday message, I'm like, okay. And then it starts. You know, one text message on a birthday turns into a call every month and then a call every Saturday. And then, hey, we're down the street visiting. We'd love to see you and the kids. And then they send presents. And it's
So there's a line you need.
but in their defense, it's a line that like I didn't put
Set
up.
Yeah.
So I have had a lot of that. I've tried to be better about it now. Like, you know, just being like, you know, hey, yeah, we're all cool. But even like some friends that I have in normal life, I don't fucking call every week, you know?
Right.
So, but I have had like a few situations that were scary. One was many, many years ago here in LA. I got a guy who came and had a gate in front of our apartment, and he rang the bell and was like, you know, hey, it's so-and-so. I'm here from Dark Delicacies. That's a horror movie bookstore here.
We talk a lot about Dark
Okay,
Del.
you guys know who they are. Anyway, and so
Let me get this straight. Dell is outside your house.
super
pretending.
creepy. Well, that's all the time.
Long white hair flowing in the breeze. Set the scene. Come on.
No. So I get this buzzer, and they go, it's so-and-so from Dark Dells. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, I didn't ask them to get something signed or whatever. I thought maybe they're bringing something over. So I'm like, oh, cool, I'll be right out. And I have my infant daughter in my arms, and I get to the gate, and it's this giant dude, like giant as in like large, Marge, kind of like big dude. And he's like, oh, I can't believe you're here. I was like, oh, well, and I'm still not really weirded out. I was like, oh, yeah, well, I'm here a lot. Yeah. He's like, I've driven by so many times in your truck. You have the spiderweb truck, right? I mean, it's never here. And I was like, huh, yeah, that's, I work a lot. I was like, what do you need, man? He's like, I've just been collecting. I've collected all these things. I mean, I just don't know why you don't get invited to some of these conventions. I've collected these flyers and I brought them here, and you need to call them, and we need to fucking call them. And I was like, yo, dude, so hang on one second. Like, you know, my husband's like over there, and I'm totally fucking lying. I'm like, shit, I don't have my phone, and like we're in between this. He's like, hands me this giant trash bag. I'm like, oh, why don't you just put it down on the ground? And it was filled with flyers. Like, I could see them. It was like hundreds and hundreds in like this giant trash bag. And he's like, you know, I was like, look, dude, it's like really nice that your fans, really cool. I really appreciate it a lot. I said, but you know, my husband's like really jealous, and you know, he probably wouldn't want you being here. So, well, could you just come say hi to my friends? They're just down there in the car.
Oh.
And I was like, you know, no. I was like, I can't. I was like, but, you know, if you drive by, I'll wave. Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm super happy you're here. Like, I'm trying to think, what did I always tell people if I was in a fucking horror movie? Yeah. Like, what would I do? I'd be like, oh, I'm going to befriend them. Like, that'd be super cool. And I'll say, I'll help you kill those motherfuckers. I'll get you another girl to rape. You know, like, I'll totally lie all the way to the police station. So I'm trying, like, racking my brain. But, like, all the time I'm holding this baby. Like, so I don't, you know, it's not like I could just, like, kick him in the balls and run, you know? So he's like, oh, all right. Well, maybe you could come up. I was like, yeah, I'll come over. Just go bring him up this way. And the car pulled up. And it was this big looking dude in full, from what I could see in the car, drag. Like, but you could tell it was a man, very hideous looking woman, lots of
Leatherface
lipstick,
style,
and like a teenage boy. Never found out what the actual relation was. They did just wave and they left, and I found out later on from Del. It's not going to tell the sad side of the story, but dude was super weirdo, super fan. Apparently took one of my business cards off of Del's desk, and wow. Super weird. I always kind of wonder, like, was the real deal? Like, did he just want me to come meet these people? Was it like, hey, come for a ride? Like, I don't know.
Be part of our family.
Yeah. Was he going to eat me?
Could be.
Wow.
Yeah, it must be. It's hard because I can imagine some people do take it like just even watching someone in a movie over and over again. You can start to imagine that you're part of the world. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few at conventions that one guy in particular, no one ever liked this guy. We called him Unibrow because obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Just one big giant brow, and I was super nice to him. Never to the point of like, let me give you my number or email or anything like that, but really, really nice, like overly like excited when you walk through. And like, because I come from the world of trauma, everybody gets a round of applause when they walk in. Oh, it's Chris, everybody. Hey, you know. And so it made him feel really good. Well, there was one point like I was standing and I was talking to like a little line of fans, and everything I said he would follow it up like, yep, that's right, she was there on that movie. Yep, yes she did. Yo, that's right, she did that. And I'm like, fuck, this is really annoying. And I had to turn to him. I said, listen, you know, I'm just gonna have a conversation with them for a minute. If you know, just come back in a little bit. And he's like, I have supported you. I have done this. Never again. And just stormed off. Like,
wow.
Fucking crazy people.
Yeah, you'd have to be
gosh.
patient.
So like occasionally like you have those like then like it makes you go, fuck, maybe I need to put like up a little bit of like a guard and not be as cool. But then you go, well, you can't have like one psycho like ruin it for everybody. Same with like celebrities. Like you hear that all the time. Like, well, I'll never go to a convention because X, Y, and Z was a total douche to me. And it's like, well, don't do that because there's a lot of us that aren't, you know?
Right.
Well, what about some positive experiences? I'm sure fans have done some awesome stuff for you at conventions too, right?
I got a dope iPad 5.
What?
Holy smokes.
Oh, iPad 3, my husband just said. Either way, it was dope.
Somebody just gave it to you, or
Yeah,
was there
it's a
reason?
gift.
That's cool.
Crazy.
My really started out as an awesome fan of mine, became my webmaster for many, many years. So free web servicing. I've met lots of cool people. 2 people that didn't actually start out as my fans that were just fans of the genre. I see them at conventions and stuff. Turned out to be like some of our greatest friends. We call them the Wilburs, Dave and Kathy Wilbur from San Francisco. So I mean, they're like, why would you not want to be friends with some people? It's like they like the same stuff you do.
Those are the type of experiences I love, where I go to the same conventions year after year and you see the same people there year after year. And it finally gets to the point where it's like, Charlie, and you haven't seen this person in a year and you're really looking forward to it.
Convention friends.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to word this in an interesting way because I'm curious how conventions have changed and evolved for you over the course of the years, because for a lot of Scream Queens, for a lot of the first generation Scream Queens, you know, they really make a substantial living doing this sort of thing. I never saw you as making a living off the conventions. You always worked a lot, but it was an important aspect like of you doing the conventions as well. And then, you know, people came in. We're going to have actually a convention episode 2 episods from now.
Oh, I need to come on that.
With Sean Clark to talk about how that works. But then people, you know, became convention agents and kind of became whatever you want to call them, you know, brokers for how this all goes down. So how has it evolved? Because when did you even start doing them? Was it like really early on? Or?
I started doing conventions basically probably during Romeo and Juliet. Like I think there was a Fango like right after we shot or in between shooting, and it was like, whoa. And I brought I didn't bring any pictures the first day, and the second day they're like, you need to bring photos. So I brought from Kinko's little lithographs, little like 4x5 lithograph black and whites, and I was giving them away, and everyone kept asking like, well, how much? And I was like, I charge you, you know, but by day 2, I was like, $1. And I sold out of my 50. So the next day I brought 100 and I sold out of those. And I was like, this is dope. Like the best thing in the whole wide world. And people loved it. They were like, wow, you know, $1, sure. You know, we'll take that. Yeah. And to me, it was, you know, you do conventions to get people familiar with you. It was like, you know, oh, you haven't seen my stuff? Oh, watch this. Or, oh, I just did Romeo and Juliet. Or, oh, I'm hosting this thing right now. Yeah, I'd really love it if you joined my website or my fan club, you know, because I was really popular then. That shows how old I am. And so those things went hand in hand. It's like you made a movie, you went to a convention. The difference with then and now is then there was maybe like 3 major conventions in the United States. And so, yeah, you could make a substantial living at it, even if you were somewhat of a nobody like I was, because everybody went to those 3. I mean, you had thousands of people showing up and there was always somebody for everybody. Like you never saw a table empty because If that line was full, I'm going to come and stand here. And at the time, people were charging $10 for a photo and a signature, and you got to take 2 photos for free. And if you brought your own merchandise, it was like, yeah, dude, let me just sign that. You know, now you have a convention every weekend in every tiny city in the whole United States and overseas. And then you have like these weird pop-up conventions that come out of nowhere. And there's just not enough fans. Yeah. Like there's just not, you know, and so I think when you have that many and then you have all these new celebrity guests and like fans don't, like, I just don't think they have that much faith in a lot of these smaller conventions. It's like, you know, they've been burned so many times. Like, oh, I'm going to show up. You tell me that the Lost Boys are going to be there and then none of them are there, or there's just one dude and I paid $40 to get in here and now everyone's charging me $40 an autograph. People don't have that kind of money. Yeah. And with all of these kind of spread out, it's just like there's just not that much money to be made. There's too many celebrity guests. The agents fucked a lot of people by adding on these kind of gigantic guarantees. And I can't lie. Like, yeah, I've taken some of them. I've had people rep me before and it's like, oh, sweet. You know, like I get this when I show up. But that ruined a lot of it because it used to be the convention owner had very little overhead with the exception of flying you out. They usually got their hotel for free because they're bringing X amount of people into the venue.
You still get the hotels for free, but you have to guarantee a certain amount of hotel rooms sold. But I mean, you still usually get the convention room for free. Usually. That's not the case in a lot of them.
Yeah, but like, so maybe you're out some flights.
Yes, but that would be it usually.
And that would be it, you know, or and maybe you'd order pizza for your green rooms and that's what you're feeding these guys. And then people were super happy. They were happy to be there. Now, a lot of people aren't happy unless they're getting X amount of guarantee, they're X amount of per diem, that they have a suite on the top floor of the hotel, they're flying first class and bringing in their manager and the manager's fucking girlfriend. And it just, all of that combined, now also added with 300 conventions every weekend, it's, you know, you're going to make a few $100. Maybe.
Have you limited the amount that you do at this point? I haven't really.
Yeah, only because, and here's my thing. It's like when I just don't want to sit at a thing and it has nothing to do with like a pride. It's like, I don't want to sit there all day and wait for 4 fans to show up because nobody promoted this thing. Because now, like, I just don't want to give off that, like that face to anybody when they get there. Like, I always want to be like what you said. Like, I'm always perky and excited, pervy and perky and excited to be there. Like, I don't want like you to show up and I'm fucking playing. I don't even know how to say Sudoku, but that like.
I also think like the money part. I know for me, it creates like a tension of not wanting to make eye contact because you don't have enough money. I think I was walking past Kelly Maroney. I did meet her one time. Kelly Maroney's like the coolest, but like seeing her sit there like really bored and no one was going up to her and walking by, but going, if I look at you, I'm going to want to talk to you, but then there's going to be an implication I have to pay you money to buy something.
And that's
unfortunate.
Too,
you know, that's what I mean. It's an unfortunate
it should be
feeling.
like, if I'm sitting alone at a convention, I'd rather you just come and chat with me so I'm not looking like a weirdo by myself than ever buy anything. The guy that buys something usually buys it and walks away. Like, you at least sit and we'll
there's like
chat.
a lot of people like that, and especially recently, I think there was people from the original Texas Chainsaw, and there's just this feeling like, oh, I can't talk to you unless I buy and I have no more money, so I'm just going to put my head down and not talk to you. And that seems like that shouldn't be how it is. You know?
It's weird.
But I think that started with a lot of the convention reps, like managers and reps, and there's guarantees to be made. So it's like, you're not going to stand here and eat up time where she's going to come over next and pay $40 and that's going to get towards the guarantee that we owe to the state. It became this kind of like vicious cycle, which, I mean, all's good, man. Because of these things, we've gotten bigger celebrities to conventions now.
True, yeah.
You know, which is kind of cool for the fan. Like, you get to meet like some serious like heavyweights, like where back in the day you really couldn't unless you went to like the super uber like Star Trek convention. But you know, I don't know.
But it costs a lot. Like Rutger Hauer was in that room at Monsterpalooza, but it was like $75.
Yeah,
and I was like, Rutger Hauer, there's no one I'd rather talk to for 5 seconds, but I'm not gonna pay. I think on his defense, it was all going to like an animal shelter or something, so that was really cool.
Right? Yeah, I have one of those too.
$75.
But even like the contracts from when Fango used to do their conventions. I mean, the last one that we did was in Vegas, and it's the main reason that we quit doing them is because there's like 500, going on every weekend now, so we can't even keep up with it and deliver the same type of quality that we used to, where we would have like every horror person who'd made a film in the past 10 years sitting in one room. But when we did it in Las Vegas last time, I was shocked by some of the celebrity like guarantees that we had to give. Like we're paying people like $75,000 to sit at a table for a weekend. I won't say which ones, but I will say there were 2 celebrities that weekend that we paid $50,000 and he had to have a suite at a very, very nice casino. And the second one was $75,000.
Eli Roth's a jerk. Let's just say it. Like, let's all lay it on the table. We all know he's a jerk.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's a blessing and a curse because I mean, as a fan, I haven't gone to conventions in at least 5 or 6 years, unless I'm hosting a panel or something. But then, like, when I was at Fear Night, I went back to Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, and it was weird because it's like, yeah, I saw a lot of the recognizable people, but now The Walking Dead is such a ginormous thing. So what I noticed is it was packed by people that would never, ever come to a horror convention. They were there just for The Walking Dead.
We saw that in Texas, too.
We used to get that at the Fango conventions with whenever we would have Buffy people out. Yeah. Because we had, what's the guy, the blonde guy who played the British? Spike. Yeah.
Spike.
He was here when we first did our show.
Yeah, whoever played Spike. He was at one of our Fango. Yeah, James Marston.
Marston, that's it.
And the one that we did in beautiful downtown Secaucus, New Jersey, I remember the last time we did it there, it was like normal horror crowd, a sea of, guys in black t-shirts, and then James Marston's sign came in, and all of a sudden we had these lines of like 14-year-old girls, and then they just dissipated and went back to
like moms too, right?
Yeah,
like a lot of young moms, like for those kind of guys.
I got his autograph. I was kind of psyched.
I was at that show in Secaucus, and I remember walking into a room full of women going nuts for him singing Nirvana's Lithium on stage, because he would always break the guitar out and start singing songs.
Well, it's weird. I saw like little, like grown women going after Chandler Riggs from The Walking Dead when he was like 14, and it's like, this is kind of disgusting.
That is kind of creepy, yeah.
Like kind of gross. But I think that's another thing. It's like the movies that horror films that are coming out now they're not movies that like invoke fandom. It's like you're not going to have
because the market's different, right?
Like people love The Conjuring, but it's not a fan movie. Yeah. Even
Paranormal Activity, really. Like if Katie Featherston went to these things, I don't even know how big that would be, and she's been on all of them in a way.
I mean, so like the TV market, it's like, oh wow, these are like big time, like it's mainstream. Like I think without like the kind of DVD world of every Friday night we're going to go there, we're going to find our new 4 horror films, and now we're going to become fan of that actor or that director or whatever. It
is really different.
I do have to say, though, Texas Frightmare, when we were there last year, that one, for some reason, maybe it was just because it was a smaller room and it wasn't like grandiose booths or anything, but the celebrities seemed so much more accessible.
It was fun. I had a really good time. And Elric's not familiar with the convention scene at all.
No, really, yeah. And
that's a good show. And I think Lloyd like handpicks his guests well. Yeah. Like I think the celebrities that like when I've only done that show once, and y'all should bring me back. Yeah. Y'all, you like that as a Texas thing? See, it's like association. Smart.
Come with us. We should be going back.
But I think they do. I think they bring in a good guest group, people that aren't major douches, people that aren't majorly overcharging, even though they did have some Walking Dead people.
That guy had like a crazy line last year.
But they do well, so I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like they bring in like a whole new breed of fans. Like I got to sit at that show. I sat next to Chandler Riggs and oh geez, I forget his name. Sinclair. He was played Sinclair.
Sinclair.
Doesn't matter. Another Walking Dead guy.
From The Walking Dead.
From The Walking Dead. And because of the people that went through their tables coming past mine, like, oh, what's this? Oh yeah, hey, well, if you like The Walking Dead, you should check out this because it's kind of like that, but not at all. But and so I mean, it's just having like the mainstream groups. There's kind of like the mainstream people that I got from Sharknado too. It's a whole different world than your typical horror world,
right?
And that's kind of awesome.
Wow.
Before we tackle Scream Queens that we're fans of, including Tiffany, a couple of years ago, I did a series on Shock to Drop when I was writing for them, because I'm friends with a lot of independent filmmakers and independent actors and stuff like that. I did a indie Scream Queen profile because I wanted to kind of get. Because anytime anybody watches a movie, they have an idea of like, oh, they're in a movie. Their life must be like so glamorous or whatever. And I see how a lot of these people in the indie world struggle. And I wanted to put a showcase on some girls that I knew from that world that work really, really hard at it. And there were a few questions that I asked to kind of round out what they had to go through. So I'm going to run those by you because I don't know your answers to this. No pressure at all. Don't be scared. Let's see.
No.
Okay.
7.
I object.
Most difficult thing you've ever had to do for an independent movie?
I'm taking a photo too.
I got
that.
The
She's really nervous.
The most
creepy.
difficult thing I
That's a good
ever
moment.
had to do for an indie movie,
Yeah.
act excited to be there.
Okay.
Most difficult thing. Yeah, geez.
And that's because most of them don't have a lot of money.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we don't have money. Can you jump through this plate glass window? It's like
Right.
that sort of thing. Where you're like,
I
shit, what do
I
get
have
into?
done in the past. I don't do it anymore. A lot of my own stunts. I did have a very big, and I still do, fear of heights. And I did this movie called The Sugar Creek Killer. One that didn't ever come out.
Oh.
By the way. And this is interesting why this movie never came out. So these guys made this movie, $300,000, shot it on film in Arizona at this really cool studio that used to exist there. So it was like a decent little, like,
300 grand's
film,
not nothing. Yeah.
film movie. I was the only, like, horror person in it. Everybody else was local.
And Bill Moseley, but that's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that guy, Reggie Bannister. No, it's just me. And they finished filming. It was cool. It was good. It was like, just a typical slasher film. Nothing great, but it was shot well and the actors were okay. They decided they weren't going to put it out because they started making movies with Michael J. Fox and they were going to make these inspirational like fundraiser films,
Yeah.
and they didn't want it to taint their image.
I've heard that a couple
That's
times with
interesting.
movie
Wow.
makers. Yeah, that's really interesting.
But now they make those same inspirational movies that don't come out for not Michael J. Fox in Arizona.
probably.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, and Ricky Schroeder. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I don't think they do. And Kirk Cameron. No, but it was really depressing on that. But on that movie, this actually goes back to Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Tom Proctor was a director on it who is in Guardians of the Galaxy. Look at that. Always goes back there. But he was a stunt guy too, and I had to fight him and then fall off this barn. And he's like, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Just tuck your chin. And I'm like, dude, I can't jump off that. He's like, you don't have to jump. I'll push you. I'm like, don't fucking push me. And he's like, don't push me, dude. I'll kill you. And he's like, no. All right, fine. You push me. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm like, but then when they're rolling and it's film, and I'm like, I'm not going to fucking waste it. I'm like, all right, I have to do it. Don't fuck up. And so I did it, and I pushed him. And when I pushed him, I punched him in the face at the same time. So when we both landed, like, I didn't tuck my chin, like, totally got whiplash. He's bleeding everywhere. And I'm just like, we're still fighting him. I'm like, did we get it? Just, are we done? Did we die? It was like horrible. So yeah, that was difficult.
Okay.
Wow. That
All right.
sucks.
Anything uncomfortable in the beginning in terms of like, and what I mean by this almost borders on the nudity question, because it's like, I mean, for us, if say we were actors, me and Elric, I'm pointing to, and we walked into a room for an
Wait, back it up.
If all right, if you were an actor,
We have appeared as background action.
I just feel like, I mean, I've heard so many stories where like you go into audition for a little tiny indie movie, and then somebody says like, all right, well, let's see what you got, and you're just like, what does that have to do with
It's a Wayne
what
Jaworski film.
Yeah, exactly.
Pop
It's a
the tops.
Jaworski movie.
Pop
Exactly.
the tops.
But I mean, I don't know. That's weird to me. So it's like,
well, also is
but
the
also
casting
because-
couch real and all these things? Like,
well, yeah, that
do
and,
people
like-
have that intent? Some
and
of
it's
these
like,
guys.
what's your desire? Do you really want to do this indie movie? Will you like what is it? Was it uncomfortable in the beginning? Did you ever have those kinds of situations?
I've never had the like show up to an audition and I'm going to blindside you with, now show me your boobs, or, dance around naked so I can see that you're comfortable in front of the camera.
Right.
I've never had that. Thank God. Although I have heard that happen to people, and I'm sure it has. I've been fortunate enough that my movies, for the most part, really weren't basement movies. Like most of them, whether low budget or movies that I thought like, wow, that was the shittiest time I've ever had on a movie, they were still movies. Like they were still movies with crews and, ADs, and they had call sheets.
Accountable people.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, whether they were good or bad, they were films. Like I hear some girls that I know, like in the genre, that will show up on a set and it's a director and his camera, and that's it. It's like I couldn't do that. I'd walk out. So fortunately for me, I think I raised the bar slightly higher for myself. Like I have to step over it, not leap, but like a little hop. However, I have had I really want you to be in this movie. We have this, we have a slate. Actually, she probably would have a different accent, like a yeah, you know, I'm going to make these movies and, you know, I want you in them because, like, you're really good. And so we'll just go out to dinner and we'll talk about it, you know, that kind of shit. And, like, you know, halfway through dinner, you realize, like, I ain't no fucking movie, you know, or, you know, they have movies, but there's no intent of putting me in them. And I have no intent in blowing you. So, you know, guess thanks for the free dinner. So I've had those, which is probably the same without the like, oh yeah, I got a movie and now you're gonna ask me to do this. You know, if I've always known there's nudity, and I've always been pretty upfront about, well, if we're gonna have nudity in this, like, you know, y'all make sure like I'm not just parading around in front of a bunch of douchebags, like, you know, like it's closed set, and you know that is fairly respectable.
Right. Yeah. For the most part. Lastly, any other jobs you've had to do to support acting? I mean, I'm sure there's been stretches where, you know, you've got consistent work going and then conventions or whatever else. But sometimes, I mean, look,
Danielle Harris was a realtor.
Yeah, Danielle was a realtor.
She is now, right?
I mean, Elric owns a cafe, but he teaches. It's like sometimes
Ken Foray used to own a deli in Long Beach.
Me and him shared a story at Jumpcut. It was really depressing. I was there and I was really tired and I had a baby the night before, and I come in and Ken Foray's shooting a scene in my cafe. I'm like, oh, and he goes, oh man, I had a deli in Long Beach, and he took a pause. He goes, one night you stand there, you buy this thing thinking you're never going to be there at 10 p.m. and you're holding a mop and you're like, what the fuck did I just do? And he's like, so I could relate to that. It's
kind of great. So like Ken and I have been friends like for many, many years. One like the first people I met in the genre, and we've been very good friends. And my brother had met him like maybe a year after I'd met him, and he's like, Tiff, Foray owns a thing in Long Beach, and we weren't really good friends yet. And he's like, you know, we should go there. And I was like, all right. So we drove to Long Beach. We get there, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, Ken, it's us. He's like, I know, but this is not fun.
Actually, another guy just around the corner, the guy from from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the guy who's at the movie theater, works at the movie theater. He's got the Italian name, and he's trying to get, I think, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
I don't remember.
Great character. He opened a place called Bob's in the Valley, and he would come to Jumpcut, and he was like, I'm so excited, I want to open a coffee shop. Dude opened that thing, man, went miserable quick. Yeah. Like, you'd go in there, and he's just like, oh.
One of the Friday the 13th chicks works at that Oyster House.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I taught yoga for years. Like, while I was trying to like get Fango to like bring me on full time, I taught yoga. It was horrible.
You should teach it in here.
I should.
On air.
I'm like totally into like the stretching and the cool fitness thing, but like the chi and your inner.
That seems like a lot of work. We know we're just going to keep drinking.
So when I first moved to Los Angeles from New York, I realized I needed a job because, again, like the dude that was like, yo, you know, you should come out with me and I'll give you movies. Like all those people that were like, when you move to LA, I'll give you a job. Yeah, no, they didn't give me any jobs. Yeah. And so I got the only job I could get in walking distance because coming from New York, I didn't know how to drive. And it was at El Torito's. And I never waitressed before in my life. So they said I could waitress in the bar. And my first day, I had a big tray of red margaritas and I spilled it all over a guy wearing a white suit. Oh. And I went, oh, shit. Well, I guess I don't have a job here. And he's like, no, honey, you get extra for that. And he became my best customer every day. He was a creepy old dude. He'd come in and be like, funny. What'd you dream about last night? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, my girlfriends.
More tips.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Nice.
The other waitress. Yeah, so I worked there for like 2 weeks. That was fun.
They have good tortilla soup.
Dude, I got fat. I started eating so many. Yeah, I did. Jesus. I was eating all I ate was nachos, like cheese nachos and sweet corn cake.
Oh, that sweet corn cake shit, like the polenta with like the chunks of corn. It's some good stuff.
The bomb.
El Torito's.
There's a plug.
I'm asking, Rob, did you have answers to that were strange with the jobs from the other people you'd asked?
Not necessarily strange. I mean, they were all pretty in line with you know what Tiffany just said. You know, some people did waitressing jobs, like things like that.
It's pretty common out here. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of stuff that'll let you still go do acting on the side. Like, you know, there's not like, you know, if you're a school teacher, they're usually not going to be like, oh yeah, sure, go away for 9 weeks. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of it was to prove, like, look, just because this is a very attractive woman that you see in movies doesn't mean that she has to wait tables and she has to go to an audition and be asked to do terrible things that you would never want to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to just kind of show the other side of it. So I think that worked.
I think Ty West sold jeans for a long time, didn't he?
I don't know.
I think an early interview with him, when he was still making, he had made like 2 films and he was still working at like a jean place at one point.
Well,
it's like,
it's a common thing that people go, oh, you make movies, you must make millions.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, I mean, even when I was making 20 movies a year, you do okay. That's it. Like, that's it. Just okay.
Yeah.
Most people that were on my fan message boards made more than I did. And they just worked regular, ordinary jobs. And theirs was more steady.
Right.
Health insurance.
Health
things
insurance.
Like that.
Yeah. But it's a common thing that people go. Like, I actually had somebody from my past that I grew up with. Like, I had the mother of the family, like, wrote me. She's like, we're big fans and, we watch all your movies. Like, that was when, like, Sci-Fi Channel would always have one of mine as, like, the movie of the week, And it was like, our families come on hard times and can you loan us $25,000? Like, oh, no. I don't have to. Like, it was, like, such a, where the fuck
a surprise.
Yeah.
Sci-fi
But it makes
movies.
sense, right?
Yeah,
Because
like
movies
Sci-Fi
can feel
Channel.
so
Like, I think
special.
I got like a $3 residual check. Like, but I think it was something like it wasn't their fault. Like, they don't know.
Yeah, it's a misconception of movies. It makes total sense because it's on a screen, it looks special, and most people don't get to live that experience, which is awesome, Yeah, I mean, how many movies would you have to make in a year nowadays to have like a normal year? Say somebody who's making... I'm not talking about your best year. I'm talking about like now. Would you guesstimate? Would you have to make like 10 movies to make a normal living these days with these
I
kind of
have
low
to
budget?
make no movies because my husband has a good job.
That makes sense.
So marry well is the point of that story.
No, but it depends. Like, I've become like you said before, it was like, oh, you used to make all these movies. And my whole thing was always like, same with conventions. Like, when it stops becoming fun, I'm going to stop doing it. And there got to a point where I was really not as happy, like showing up on these sets. Like, I was kind of looking at people going like, I do know some really talented directors, that I've worked with. And it's like, why the fuck can't you be like him? It's not that hard.
Right.
Do your research, like, take some online classes, not on directing, but like learn how to edit your shit, learn how to do sound, like just learn how to just do simple lighting and your stuff won't be so fucking bad. So I started to get this like really like, I want to shake
feel like
these
empowered,
people.
like you wanted to direct your own stuff? Because that's usually sounds like the next step often for...
I'm not that focused. Like I like...
But you could be. Focus.
You got to put up that thing where you get hypnotized. No, I mean, like my husband's super like focused and
I love the trail off there.
As you tried to focus on that
I had to focus
As
on
she said
what
that,
it
he's
was
looking
about.
all over the
talking
place.
about?
He doesn't seem all that way.
No, focused and what is it when you're a perfectionist?
Yes.
Like, to me, some of the shit he does, I'm like, fuck, dude, it was done like 3 hours ago. Like, why are you still working on it? And that's the type of director I would be. And like, I would just be like, all right, it's great, it's good enough. And then I
One
think
and
I would
done.
live with him, and he'd be like, well, it could have been a lot better, and it would be way so frustrating.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't think I'm cut for directing right now. Maybe a little movie, like a really short movie,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a 3 second.
Oh, that's I call them blink films.
You mean like a
That's what we'll call it.
Let's
Let's be a great
Blink
blink direct. Let's start a
Festival.
festival called the Blink Festival.
Fest.
You get there and then it's over.
That's right.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Okay,
good.
so because you have a resume that's like 200 strong, what
Stalker.
we're gonna go? Wow, 5 recommendations from your filmography that Elric should watch.
All right, yeah.
He's
Okay.
not as
Because all the
familiar.
movies I've seen you in, I don't know I've seen you.
Okay, The Hazing, because I was
Hazing, I
fucking hot and I wore a
recognize.
silver spacesuit.
And what year approximately are these movies so we know? Like The Hazing, old or new?
1904.
Oh, 1904.
19-aught.
Yeah.
God, that was like
Oh,
that
okay.
was like 11 or 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a long
All right,
time
The
ago. But
Hazing.
it's me and Brad Dourif. Kind of
Nice.
dope.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
I'm not
Nice.
going to tell you that it's like a spoiler, but I kill him. Yeah, so spoiler.
Can't watch that one
And then
now.
I become
That's
possessed
fun.
by him.
What?
Chucky. Yeah.
Kind of awesome with an
Exorcist
English
3.
accent.
Oh.
Which he helped you out on, right?
He did.
You said
That was kind of the dopest. Like, my like fangirl moment was, I had 2 of these like in my whole career. Fangirl moment number 1 was sitting in my apartment and Brad Dourif came over to help me with the dialect that he never said he was going to have. Like, all of a sudden he's like, I decided I'm going to do English accent. I'm like, what? I didn't practice it like that. But he helped me with like
That's cool.
all of it, which was super,
You
super
seem
awesome.
very British to me anyway.
He does. Yeah.
No, you.
I do. I know. I'm so British. And second fangirl moment was doing voiceover with Jeffrey Combs.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never met him before. And like, I
yeah.
got to play his like hooker prostitute /
Which
girlfriend. It was an animated thing for Japan
Oh.
called The Night Driver.
Wow.
Like a short animated thing or a
Yeah.
longer? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was like a blink. Like
Okay.
a second. I know, but I got to be in the room with him doing this, and I was like the whole time kind of geeking. I actually kind of like, I think I looked over like to see his email on the thing. Like I never emailed him, but it was like, oh, there's Jeffrey Combs' email.
That's pretty cool.
Total geek fest. And then I've met him 100 times after that, and I'm like, it's Jeffrey Combs.
He goes into Jumpcut, right?
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's super
Big
nice.
supporter.
Yeah,
like
super nice.
I think a lot of people think he's prickly, okay, but probably he is.
Like
to
he's
certain people.
he's a
prickly,
prick?
no prickly to people,
like
but
not social.
yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just how you meet someone in this
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, he's been super nice.
You're an important person in his life. You give him coffee.
I did.
So
And sandwiches.
Hot
that's
chicken
sweet.
sandwiches.
I don't know why he was so nice to me first time we met him, but regardless, he's nice.
Good job. Way to go.
Yeah.
all right.
Oh my
So,
God.
so the hazing, the Frankenstein syndrome.
Okay.
I play a molecular biologist.
Okay.
Super smart. That's the one my husband didn't want me to do, but then I did it anyway, and was like super badass in it. Watch that.
I believe you as a
That worked
scientist
out
over,
very well.
over Michael Madsen.
Oh yeah, he wasn't my husband then. I didn't even like him.
Oh,
Wow.
Interesting fun fact. And the late Ed Lauder is in that from like every
yeah,
80s movie.
Ed Lauder's
And
great.
Louis Mandalore from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and he's the other Mandalore. You know, not the Saw Mandalore, but the other one.
Right.
Greek people unite. So we got that. So it's like serious. So you go like the hazing, which is like fun and campy, and then you go like, oh wow, serious. Like, oh, she's so moody. And then you go Sharknado 2 because like, oh shit, shark to the face.
I haven't seen number 2 actually. I saw number 1.
I haven't seen
I'm surprised I
number
didn't tape it. Yeah, because everyone saw it.
Yeah, because you guys are real nice supporter friends
There
of
was
mine.
millions of
Way to
people
go.
watch that. I can't watch it because of Iron.
I don't.
It,
I
it,
can't
it
say
was
his name.
it was
Ian,
it was
Ian.
4 million
Ian,
people,
yes.
and that
4
could have been
million
4
people.
million and 3. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it will
I
be
didn't
4
watch
million.
all the
and three.
first
I didn't watch Sharknado 1, so
I don't care about Sharknado 1. We're talking about Sharknado 2.
What do you do in number 2? What is your role in number 2?
Dude, I carry a shotgun, a crossbow, a
Oh, wow.
paring knife.
Oh, so you have a real legit
a
one.
fishing hook.
All at once.
All at once.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I've seen you do that in 4 different movies. So
Yeah, you just got to watch.
All right.
Spoiler alert, I do not get attacked by a shark in the face
You make out with Ian?
twice.
Ooh.
No, I don't do any of those things, but watch it. It's really, really awesome. But I do get attacked by a shark in the face, but I don't die. Watch it. Watch
All
in
right.
slow-mo.
Okay.
And I play Peppa from Salt and Peppa's best friend. That's kind of dope.
hey,
Oh wow.
that is really good.
That's funny.
Part 2 sounds incredibly self-aware now. Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
I think
Come on.
part 1 was too, really. It didn't know it was going to be successful, but it was still self-aware. Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
I always assume that they're not that self-aware.
Did you know Anthony Ferrante? Because
I did. I knew
big Fango
Anthony
guy.
Direct Fango.
because Anthony was our second unit director on a movie I did called The Scarecrow, which was one of my first movies that played the Sci-Fi Channel. I had a really short, like super, like a like really butch lesbian haircut, and I used to slick it back really tight, like glued down. Thought that was hot.
Is that in your 5 or not?
Should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 3.
If you
Number
like,
3.
you seem
That's
to like
4.
the tough girl thing.
I like the tough girl,
You got to
yeah.
go for the
All right.
Scarecrow then.
That's 4.
So we're talking about Scarecrow, Anthony Ferrante, Emmanuel Etier, who went on to this really dope documentary called Femme. Nothing to do with horror movies at all. But
So you're in an Emmanuel film?
what?
No? Didn't you just say Emmanuel?
Waka waka waka.
Wait, I'm confused. Who's Emmanuel? Is this a woman's
That's the
name?
director of the Scarecrow.
Oh, okay. I really thought you were in Emmanuel.
No, but I do know
Like,
somebody
she went
that
to space, I thought
directed
maybe.
an Emmanuel movie, Rolf Konevsky, who directed
Oh,
The
yeah.
Hazing. So
Yeah,
it all
we know
goes
him.
back.
Oh,
to-
he made The Hazing. We know him, yeah.
He also did
Cool.
There's Nothing Out There.
Yep.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And Nightmare Man.
And
which
Nightmare
also
Man,
stars
Also
which I
has
was,
you in it.
which also has me in it, which you should also watch. That's number 4,
You
but
know-
we still have another one. No, it's number 5. No.
I have to pause on Nightmare Man because that was like when I was like, okay, this girl
You could do
kicks
one more.
total butt because you came on Fango Radio for Nightmare Man, and I've never heard D was always like because D Snyder hosted it, and he was never in any way sexist or even remotely like that. But with Nightmare Man, he was like, yeah, Tiffany, the back part's looking really good in that movie. Like he was complimenting your ass, and you completely straight face, just as sarcastic and biting as you could go, yeah, it's a grade A piece of meat. And I was just like, fucking awesome.
What's so sad is I have no recollection of going on Fango Radio ever.
Nightmare Man.
I'm sure. That's cool. Yeah, no, Nightmare Man was really kind of awesome, like point in my career because it got picked up for After Dark Horror Fest. And so this little movie that was just this tiny little nothing movie that we made for fun to go to Blockbuster, like hopefully it'll be in Blockbuster, like got to play all these theaters, and I got to travel around across the US and go watch our movie. So it was kind of dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, watch Nightmare Man.
Okay.
Because
That one I've seen the
the
cover of.
grade A piece of meat.
I've seen the
Grade
cover.
A piece
All right.
of meat.
And The Violent Kind. Violent
Which I've
Kind.
seen.
Made by the
But I didn't know you were in it, so that's different.
Rewatch, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Bloody, crazy, possessed.
Naked.
Oh, yeah, I do get naked as like an
And covered in
alien.
blood.
Yeah. Oh, alien, spoiler alert.
What's the one you're
They're aliens.
Alien naked.
You're in one with Debbie Rochon. I saw a photo of recently where
Wrath
you're
of the
covered in
Crows.
blood or something.
Watch
Yeah.
that, too.
Is that out?
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Okay.
I play like this, like the whole thing takes place like in this kind of weird purgatory, like you're not sure where you're at, and there's all these prisoners, and these prisoners have like really fucked up. Like they haven't eaten in days, they're filthy, they're disgusting, they're weird, and then this beautiful princess type woman wearing a crow feather, and naturally that's me, shows up, and she's going to grant them all these wishes. But of course, you know, some crazy bitch who's all pretty in a fur thing shows up and grants you wishes. It's not good. So yeah, bad things happen.
That's a cool concept, though.
Now, where do
It's a
you
lot of fun.
get
It's a lot of
movies
fun. And
now
we
that
shot
are-
that in Italy, which was super dope too. Me, Debbie Rochon, Tara Cardinal, new like redheaded scream
yeah,
queen.
yeah, yeah.
again. Yeah.
But how do, like that's the other thing now. Where do these movies go now? Like because before you could just go to the video store and watch it.
Yeah.
Like where do I see that movie?
In the guy's basement.
The guy in his house in Italy.
Friday night.
When in Italy, come see his movie.
That's back
That's a
to
hard
our
question.
problem.
Yeah,
it's
we don't know
like
where they go.
why we don't have like new fans of the genre, because like a lot of these films and some that are very, very good just never find that home, or they do, but with the ridiculous amount of other movies that are out there, it's like, how do you choose one over the other? So you're just going straight after box art, you know?
Right.
That's pretty much it right now, because there is such a saturation going on in the horror markets right now that when you're asking people, like, what would pull you to this movie? You know, why would you pick this particular one at Redbox if you don't know anything about it ahead of time? Box art. That's what
I think
everybody says.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think most of us, with all of us, everybody in the world being so busy, everybody has to work multiple jobs. Everybody, you know, you have kids and you have this and you have regular lives. Like you don't really have a lot of time to waste on a hope. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've never heard of this. I'm just going to give it a try. Like, because I myself, like, ask, like, you know, when we're at home and we only have, like, after the kids go to bed, like, you know, this amount of time to watch a movie, I'm like, yeah, no, I've never heard of that. I'm not watching that. No, I've never heard of that. I'm not watching that. Oh, okay. I read, you know, like, Rebekah talked about that and it's probably pretty good. All right, we'll just give it a shot. Yeah. And if you don't live in these circles where people are going to discuss this often, or you don't float around on every horror blog, like, how would you know?
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is even you know we've talked a lot in our show about how, you know, we're of that generation that would go to the video store and spend hours there just looking at boxes and figuring out what we wanted to check out. And now it's kind of evolved into the Netflix thing where you have to kind of skim covers that way. And what's interesting is, like, I think maybe in the last 2 days, you know, I'm a huge fan of like Korean cinema. Even Netflix, like now all of a sudden digital means like Netflix. It's like all algorithm based, like everything that shows up in your Facebook feed, everything that shows up on my Netflix in terms of what I want to watch is just a very limited amount of things. Like, again, I did a search for Korean stuff and I was like, these are 10 movies I wanted to see and I didn't realize they were on Netflix because they're not showing up on my suggested things.
Facebook freaks me out now because I've had these moments where I will go to Amazon. This actually just happened yesterday. I will go to Amazon and I bought myself a deck box. This is like the bench thing that you put on your deck and you put like rakes and hoes and shovels in it and it sits on your deck. So I ordered one off Amazon. Next thing I know, I completely log out. I go to Facebook and all the way down the side, it's got all of this shit. And I'm like, how the fuck do they know what I just did? That's insane.
Yeah, it's weird because
freaky.
It doesn't level the playing field for Netflix. Like you can't even search movies the way you would if you were just walking randomly at a video store anymore, where it used to be. Now it's like they're trying to figure out, you know, what
you're into.
Yeah, and it's kind of frustrating, to be honest. I think that's why people listen to our shows, because they want recommendations. They want to hear about something a little bit, or they'll read Fango or hit a website or whatever. So.
But I have gotten some good recommendations off Netflix. I kind of like when I log in and it's like, because you like Megalodon Shark Attack 6, you'll probably like it. I'm like, you know
Sharknado
what?
2.
Sharknado 2. I probably would like that because I liked Shark Attack Part 6 Megalodon, or whichever one of the Shark Attack series is the Megalodon.
But do you find that you don't go past like the first page of like recommendations? It's like, I'm just too frustrated. I just pick that.
Yeah.
I can spend
Annoying.
hours and never find anything.
Yeah.
It's just the worst.
rough.
And also I have kids picks in there that fuck it all up. So
that's ours
you like
too.
Caillou. And I'm like, I didn't like Caillou, motherfuckers. Like,
I
he
have
doesn't
a
pay the
Nobody
bills.
likes
Marty
Caillou.
has an
Okay.
account.
My
So like
son
when
does.
I log into Netflix, it says who is watching, and it brings up a little icon of
I saw
Wonder
that,
Woman,
yeah.
and it brings up a little icon of Elmo.
Yeah.
And I get to say,
I see that option now,
watching.
but it was too late because I have all this crap in there that I can't get rid of now.
Right.
But I think it's really weird. I think it limits so much what you want to see to the point where you just don't want to see any of it.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough to make that
And it
decision.
becomes alphabetical.
You
and all
take
this
a
shit.
risk like so many times on something that you've never heard of with these dumb actors and there's these basement movies, and then you're like, all right, I'm not screwing with that anymore. I'm only gonna watch this, or that's at least what has happened with me.
I
It's
wonder if
like,
a lot of people. This is why a lot of people are going to TV. TV's gotten so good for one.
Well, and it's produced well. Like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
gonna look.
But I wonder also
beautiful.
if it's like less of a risk because there's money and you turn on one, and if it's only 45 minutes and you hated it, stop watching the show. But with movies, because I do that more or less
yeah,
all
me
the time
too.
now on Netflix. To be
It's
honest,
like, I'd rather make a 45-minute gamble than an hour and a half one.
yeah, I can't wait to check out 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
can't
is a
wait
really
to
good
watch
one.
the show of that.
Yeah.
Because I saw the picture.
You know
for
what?
no
We
other
started
reason.
watching Black Mirror.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah,
plugging
we
that for
talked
like
about that
the
show.
last year. We've
Just
been like
wait.
so
Well,
excited.
we
about
just heard about it from
good.
Sean's boss, and it was like, oh, this is
Did you
crazy.
finish it?
No, we're only on like episode 4, but there's only 6,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but you need to
But that
mentally
pig
separate
fucking,
them.
that's
that was
Big
just
fucking
insane.
episode.
That's like,
For me, mine was the biking episode. For some reason, that one, like, I think it was.
see,
the
you
third
liked that.
one.
I didn't like that. I hated
Totally
it.
Yeah.
fucked
That was
me
my
up,
least
where I was
favorite
like,
of all.
I'm not living my life, and that one, like,
I see.
changed.
That was
too
weird. I didn't
sci-fi
like
for
it.
me. I like when they're like so real to life. The
Yeah,
sci-fi
the-
elements minor, like
like-
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Like the implants in the
eyes, yeah,
eyes.
that
That
was
was
bad.
like,
And even the fourth one,
yeah.
which you build an algorithm based on somebody that's no longer here anymore.
Yeah.
Which
we didn't watch it yet.
Oh, you just said you watched the first 4.
Well, I lied. You're so
lied?
stupid.
Well, that's good. It's not a spoiler. You'll be all
Not a
right.
spoiler.
We haven't seen. There's a
Fine.
Christmas one with John Hamm that we haven't seen. It's the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Hasn't come out in America, I don't think. But that sounds cool.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm sure we'll get an American redux at some point.
But yeah, I think you're right though about the TV stuff. It's shorter, so less
Yeah.
time invested. You watch one, it's like, that blew. Like
Yeah.
moving on.
Better
Or-
production values.
But I don't know if we would get a Black Mirror here because it does what TV can't do right now. It's the reason that we can't have anthology TV shows right
Right.
now, because when you have to change setting and cast and everything every single episode, it is so fucking expensive. You have to have the same set.
But it would happen at like Netflix or someone. It would be like BBC, where they can afford to do this limited run 5. Netflix is doing some pretty risky stuff. I mean,
Well, they're making a movie out of that episode with the eye thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
oh
So
yeah,
there's that.
Robert Downey Jr. bought that, right?
Yeah. And we were talking about The Fall at the top of the show, which, for the love of God, I hope they don't. But there's talk of an American remake of it, which makes
Well, Broadchurch. I
makes
finished
sense
watching
to me.
that show, and like before I finished my last episode, the American remake was already out, and the same lead actor,
That's how it
the guy
was
played
with
Doctor
Life
Who,
of
played the guy.
Mars for me.
That's
Where I
really
was like,
bizarre.
I was in the middle of the British one, and it had just like come over here to watch it. I'm like midway through the British Life on Mars, and then it's like, oh, here's the American one. And
Yeah,
it
there should
had
be a rule
crap
in that if you're going to
ending.
remake it, you have to really change things. Like, because if it's exactly the same, I just don't understand. Because the British is always going to probably be better.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, we were saying the thing about Black Mirror is that show is already 3 or 4 years old. So for them to be that
Really?
spot on satirically,
Yeah.
like in terms of what the not too distant future is going to be.
Yeah,
pretty
it's
awesome.
pretty top
Yeah.
notch.
Yeah.
Genius.
There are. All right, before we wrap up, why don't we go around the table? Favorite Scream Queens in general? Of the movie.
Oh,
Other than
I'm
Tiffany
Rebekah
Shepis.
McKendry. Tiffany Shepis is my favorite.
Besides Tiffany, we know Tiffany's at the top of the list.
Tiffany's up there. See, well, I did this wrong because
What did you do?
I
Final
wrote
girl?
down, like,
You went with your old
I
rules.
went with like women I think kick ass on screen.
Fine. Then who do you think kicks ass on screen?
Biling.
As
Go.
of recently, I gotta say Shawnee Smith just because I always loved The Blob.
Yeah,
and
she's cool.
her coming back in the Saw films was just kind of
And
made
the
my
show
day.
she did with Ted Danson.
I don't remember the show.
I don't remember that either.
Becker.
Becker. Oh my god.
She was on Becker.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Shawnee Smith's band too. She's in a band called Smith and Pyle with Missy
yeah.
Pyle. It's
Yeah.
like a country rock band.
Who was in here once in our studio.
Yeah, she was. So surprisingly,
You know what? We didn't even
Good
mention
band.
Scream Queens of the show. Did any of you guys watch that?
I was a big fan of. I really
thought
liked
that
that
was
show,
pretty great.
especially like the James Gunn season.
You didn't like it, Tiff?
It was good.
You didn't find it? See, I thought it was just entertainment, but I didn't.
I have
believe
a
this
thing. Like back then, we had a show that I was producing reality crap back then, and we had ours. It was called Queen of Screams, and we had Robert Englund attached to host. And it was rather not Queen of Screams. That was a movie I did. It's called Camp Scream, and Robert Englund was our host, and we had a shit ton of guest people coming on, like everyone from 4A down the line. And the day we were pitching to CBS, we had pitched to Cartoon Network. James Gunn, I brought him into this is another fuck job. Brought him into I hosted the pilot for Face Off. Never got asked to come back. But he came on our show like to be a guest judge. And I was like, he's like, oh, what are you doing the rest of the day? And I was like, oh, we're going to pitch this thing. He's like, well, I just sold the show. It's called Scream Queens to VH1. And I was like, dun, dun, dun. So I couldn't watch it. I was like,
well, the second season was nowhere near as good. Because once James Gunn wasn't there, it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was entertaining.
It's still fun to watch people go through tasks. And, it's much better than 90% of reality TV, which is,
I just think it kind of made people look at horror a little bit more seriously. Like, you can't just show up and scream on the camera. Whatever, there's more to it. So I don't know. But anyway, favorites. Go ahead.
So I said Shawnee Smith. As of recent, Lena Headey, who I don't even think that she would be considered a scream queen.
Yeah. She's badass.
She's badass. The Purge. I just loved her when she was like, Dread. She's just one of my favorite people. Scream queen modern day. I've been into Alexandra Daddario. I can't say her last name. We've discovered
the
it.
one from the New Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The one from the New Texas Chainsaw. She was in True Detective. Yeah. She's in Joe Dante's new film Burying the Axe.
So we consider her a scream queen from the Chainsaw movie. That's it.
I don't know.
I'm just curious. I mean,
no.
Oh, no, she's in Bereavement as well.
I still think there's a big difference between Final Girl.
What about Sharni Vinson? I like her too.
She's total Final Girl, totally not Scream Queen to me.
Who's that?
To me, the total opposite.
The Australian girl, and you're next.
Okay.
All she does is kick everyone's ass.
Because it's not a big enough movie. That movie didn't make some big genre impact like a Blair Witch did or Paranormal Activity even. Like, good movie, but not a... I think it has to be huge mainstream impact on the genre, change the way shit was done, or...
I'm going to go Jessica Harper Suspiria then.
I'll give you Jessica. Why not? Does she scream in this?
She does this the entire time. Yeah. Oh wait.
Silently with her hair.
That's kind of like a scream.
I think that's the thing. I feel like Scream Queen's like a title that is kind of like what you're saying, like kind of like an earned thing. That all of those are actors and actresses and characters and final girls, but I don't feel like any of them. And the same with me. A lot of the ones I'm thinking of, like besides Marilyn Chambers, that's a legitimate Scream Queen role. Most of them are just actors or final girls. You know.
You know what? I think it almost like we have to think about if 50 years from now and we're giving like Lifetime Achievement Awards, and it's not just about a role, but it's about
a body of work.
Career, right? Or like if you're in a movie like The Exorcist, like something that was like holy shit, people can't get out of their minds. But if you're talking about like a career and it's a career that's specifically in a genre, then it's like, all right, if you could justify why you're giving it to that person, Scream Queen.
Okay,
yeah. I mean, I think of obviously, Brink Stevens. Daniel Harris, Linnea Quigley, even Barbara Crampton.
Well, especially for Reanimated, that was a definite Scream Queen role. It felt like it.
Michelle Bauer, PJ Souls, people along those lines.
Yeah,
Adrian
they're all
Barbeau.
classic.
They're like the classic.
And Barbeau is borderline Sybil Danning because she's also tough. Like I like her too. Add her to my list.
Yeah,
I am actually completely obsessed with Sybil Danning. I always have been. She's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Except she's always going to try to sell you something.
You ever see They're Playing with Fire? I'm going to show you that movie.
All right, cool.
It's an excellent Sybil Danning.
No, but that's a different. I think that's just a different category, like person who kicks ass. That's more like Arnie or something.
Yeah,
she's like a female Arnie more than
if I tried to find the origin of it, I feel like this term was coined for Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Because she'd done Halloween, and then all of a sudden there's Prom Night and Terror Train and all that. So I think it originated with her. Yet I totally buy people going back and saying, well, Fay Wray from King Kong,
or her mom,
or Janet Leigh,
her mom playing the ultimate first.
Well, they weren't at the time that their films came out, but I can go back and call them that. So I feel like that's where it started. Figure 1980 with Jamie Lee Curtis, like the quintessential one. But then it's like I think of Brink Stevens and people that have done, like you said, a huge body of work,
like a ridiculous amount of these films, and that had like a ridiculous amount of fans that went with them, and it wasn't necessarily just because they were getting naked. Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of these 80s movies were jerk-off movies. There wasn't a plethora of free porn.
But then, like, Jamie Lee Curtis or someone doesn't, right? So
no.
She was never like that,
Yeah, I'm actually on Wikipedia.
But Michelle
right now.
Bauer, you know, a lot of people forget about Michelle Bauer.
I love Michelle. Yeah.
Bring Stevens, Linnea Quigley, Julie Strain, even though like a lot of it went more towards the softcore side, she still did a ridiculous amount of horror films.
Yeah, see, the ones that I'm looking at, like, because I'm on Wikipedia right now, just because if you Google Scream Queen, it connects you right to this. And it agrees with your definition, Tiffany, that it's any female who does a large body of work or one that's like a major seminal example.
Oh, yeah, because I wrote that.
Yeah, you've been altering Wikipedia. But here's the difference is like you look at the ones that Wikipedia lists from the 70s. It's Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, things like that. You look at the ones from the 90s. Debbie Rashan comes up. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who I can see because she did like I Know What You Did Last Summer and films like
And
that.
yet weird, I
But
think
then
Jennifer
you
Love
go-
Hewitt's more of a screen queen than Sarah Michelle Gellar in my brain. I don't know why.
But then look at the recent ones that it has on here, and it lists Kate Beckinsale for Underworld,
No, that's just
Sherry
stupid.
Moon Zombie.
Nope.
No, see, and
I would go with
you're
that.
on here
Why?
as well.
Of course I'm on that.
And,
No.
Tiffany Shepis and Serena Vincent.
I don't know about this.
See?
Well,
Yeah.
fans really like Serena Vincent, and I think they coined her that
Yeah.
rather than her coining herself.
Right, which makes it legit.
is
Yeah.
legit and
Yeah.
cool. All right, so Serena Vincent, fine. Sherry Moon Zombie, I'd say absolutely.
Jamie
Absolutely, it was
Alexander.
those Rob Zombie films. I mean, look at the careers they reinvented.
But she's like the villain in all of them, pretty
Yeah,
much, except for
she's-
the last one.
Doesn't
She's
matter
like,
if you're killing, getting killed, showing your boobs, just dying. Doesn't matter. Movies that were impactful to the genre. I think Heather Donahue, Scream Queen, even though it's just
One
Blair
film,
Witch,
yeah,
one
yeah.
film. Firuza Balk,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, the other two
Mindy
that it
Clark,
lists
cool
here-
character, Return of the Dead 3.
Yeah.
She just
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
so
yeah.
dope
That
that
one,
it's like,
yeah,
it's
I
fucking
agree.
That's
Scream
one,
Queen.
that one character.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Andrea Bogart is on here as a modern day Scream Queen as well.
Who?
That's exactly what my
okay.
point was. And she's listed like right after you on here. It's got Jamie Alexander, Andrea Bogart,
She added herself.
Mercedes McNabb.
Well, Mercedes McNabb, she was a Buffy chick.
Yeah.
Did a lot of indie horror stuff after that. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily a Scream Queen just because I don't think, I think another part of it is like embracing the genre, like going, man, I love doing this. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to talk about it. I think it's great. I understand it. It's not that I just use it as a stepping stone or to make some quick cash.
Do you think the power of that marketing label is passed now? Not for you and the previous, but the new people coining themselves. Do you think that has any real power now? Because the video and DVD's gone.
because
and-
nobody gives a shit anymore.
So now it's just yourself labeling.
To be honest with you, nobody's given a shit for the last 5-6 years about these little movies. The indie movie world, it's
done.
It's goner.
Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of been replaced by festival movies. Like if you make horror and it goes to the festival because it's already in, it's actually a good film.
Yeah, like to be
that
honest,
gets
like what I
rewarded,
say to people, like if I'm meeting anybody of any caliber at this point, it's not like, oh yeah, I've made 200 horror movies. Like, oh, well, I just made this movie once called The Violent Kind. It played Sundance.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I like a lot of
with
my
your
go-to
legit
or
foot,
my Sharknado too. Well, everyone's heard of that,
Right.
You know, rather than the rest of that. And I've had that plenty of times by big agents and managers, like, why don't we just kind of like cut this resume down to like 4 movies? And I'm like, dude, like I've worked my whole career to get that. And to them, they're like, yeah, but this means nothing to the real world.
Do you have any, maybe, I guess your first couple films, any films on VHS before VHS ended?
Dude, lots.
Do you remember what the last would have been? I'm always curious at that trend. That's how nerdy I am. I actually care about what your
I
last
really
VHS
don't. I have no idea, but I'm sure you can go to
home
Rob G's
tonight.
house and
Go home tonight.
look
Yeah,
where
you're
the
right,
VHS
200,
is and me
yeah.
stop.
Because was it Eastern Promises the last one, or History of Violence is the last
History of
VHS?
Violence is the last VHS
What was the last film you
produced.
bought on VHS?
Oh, just ones I got recently. I don't know.
Yeah, we
of
still
new
buy.
ones.
Oh,
I
Well,
mean,
that's true. I mean, like, what's
Crap.
the last like new film you
God,
got on
I don't
VHS?
remember.
I remember
So
I
long
bought
ago.
Swingers, and that was the last
Bloody
new
Murder
film.
2
Bloody
might
Murder
have been my last one on VHS. Because
Right.
I think we still have it, like a lot of it. And that was a weird movie.
a lot of units.
That movie it was put out by Artisan, and we shot up in Idlewild with like a big budget union, lots of people up there. And I was like, everybody was like, well, what the fuck? Did anybody ever watch Bloody Murder 1? And they're like, oh, no, don't watch Bloody Murder 1. So, of course, what we all do is, before we start shooting, get this movie. And it was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Like, why are they making a sequel
Same
to this?
filmmakers?
No, totally
interesting.
new filmmakers, lots of money, but yet the first one had no money, total basement movie. And what we got from the producers was that sequels make money.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like, but you couldn't pick a better one? Like,
I don't know if I believe
you
that
even
sequels to
need the-
movies
well,
you haven't heard
it
of.
was that they had a killer with a mask. You know, it was just like a typical
With a hockey
slasher thing.
mask.
Yeah, hockey mask looks exactly like.
Bloody Murder 2 closing camp.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Ooh. It's
Yeah.
like the burning
I'm not gonna
meets
lie,
the
I kinda wanna
A
see
summer
this.
camp
the
film.
nesting. It's
shot
like the nesting and Jason
in the winter
combined.
up in Idlewild. They were shoveling snow out of the way before the sex scenes in the woods.
Wow.
Kind of dope. It's actually a good slash film, and the kills are badass.
All right.
Yeah, watch it.
I kind of want to watch.
I
Bloody
have that
Murder
really
2.
sexy, like super tight lesbian haircut in it. You'll like it.
All right.
That's a
That
theme
goes to my
tonight.
cue.
So that's number 6.
Okay, number
Lesbian
6.
haircut.
So I'm starting with number 1 though. The not
Hazing.
reaping. the
Actually, you
hazing, I was
should
gonna
go
say.
with Romeo and Juliet.
No, I've seen that. I've definitely
But
seen
do you
that film.
remember me
Yeah,
as a pre?
Actually, I remember really liking that film when I saw it when it first came out. It's a really fun film.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's
Good
great.
movie. Legit movie.
All righty.
Is that all our Scream Queen questions
Well, I'm
answered
going
in
to
our whole?
explode if we don't stop.
Oh, you
this.
have to piss? Okay. Oh, that's right. We've been
Elric's
drinking
supposed to be up
Jamaican
with
beers.
beer
I am not
this
supposed to
entire
pee
time.
in a bottle.
No.
Oh, Tiff, what did you do already?
Well, yeah, this was super fun.
Thank
I
you
don't
so
know
much
if we
for
got to
coming
the bottom
out.
of the
I
Scream
know.
Queen.
We can do a follow-up.
Yeah.
You know?
It was just fun to chat about it. We've never
Yeah.
actually tackled this subject before. so-
Maybe
I
come
think
back
the
once
next
I've
time
seen
we
those
should
films.
come back and we should all like straight up list the people that are definitely not Scream Queens that
yeah.
like claim to be.
Yeah,
Well,
let's
there's
start
a few.
enemies.
No, there's a few right now that we know in certain circles that you're kind of
I
like,
definitely
oh.
don't agree.
Yeah.
Like I said, Tiffany Shepis and Deborah Rashawn are the last ones.
Last of the Mohicans. Well,
Anyone that
let's throw
calls
Danielle
themselves after
Harris in
that.
there
And, yeah.
and Felissa Rose.
Felissa, I'll give her that. Yeah.
You know.
Well, she had a pretty iconic Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had iconic,
Yeah.
iconic again.
Yeah, for sure.
Blah 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 blah. blah.
She
The
drank
chick
so
with the
many
dick.
beers.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And Danielle Harris, is she retired from acting?
Maybe for the time being.
Okay.
I think so.
I'm not even sure.
Hold on. I will tell you this.
All right, we'll find that after the show.
Next time on
Next time, tune in.
Killer
We've
POV.
Googled in 1 week.
Thank you so much for Tiffany for coming in. Obviously, a good friend of ours. Wanted to do this for a while.
Yay.
A lot of fun. Check out the movies that she mentioned. And next week, I think, is our found footage episode.
Oh, I've been waiting for this for
Filmmakers behind,
91 episodes to
The
talk about
Taking-
found
The Taking of
footage.
Deborah Logan was a movie we talked about a lot. Those guys are going to
We
come
watched that.
It's actually
Cool, I
pretty
like it
good.
a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
It's actually pretty good.
You know why we watched that
It's
though
a
really
found
fast?
footage
Why
film.
we watched that? Because I was like, Sean, oh my god! So one time there was this lady and like she was in this house with us and she like totally had Alzheimer's. She started cursing at me, calling me like, "What the fuck are you looking at?" I was like, "Has anyone ever made a movie?" He's like, "Yeah, we were gonna watch it tonight on
that's
Netflix."
funny.
I was like,
all right.
"Damn it!"
Yeah, no, it's a good one. And
It
we've
is the
been wanting to
closest
do
position.
found
If you've
footage,
ever
too.
talked to somebody who has not known who you are or forgotten it, it can be
Yeah, it's super
alarming,
creepy.
For
It's
real.
really scary.
Yeah, it can be alarming.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me. This was
That's
awesome.
fun, yeah.
Thank you. Right on.
Later.
See you next week.
Bye.